subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Synopsis. Rebirth in the ancient times of the Shinigami world. Through their own efforts, they reached the peak of Shinigami. Before they had time to appreciate the scenery of the peak, they fell due to an accident. Opening his eyes, he found that he had been reborn in the second round. In this life, I am an ordinary Shinigami, originally planned to live in peace until the finale. However, after rebirth, his name is Gosuke. Not surprisingly, it won't be long before he will be forced to take office and become the 9th Kenpachi, the weakest Kenpachi in Soul Society history. In all fairness, Gosuke Shigure doesn't want to be Kenpachi. Chapter 1 Freshman Soul Society is the place where the souls of living beings return after death. Here, it is divided into Suriidii and Rakangai. Suriidii is the place where the existence called Shinigami and some nobles who have been rooted in the Soul Society have lived since ancient times, while Rakangai is the place where ordinary souls live. Rakangai is divided into 4 major regions: Southeast, Northwest, and each region has 80 districts, totaling 320 districts. In these 320 districts, there are countless souls living, and the breath of the soul is the most delicious food for another kind of creature named Su that was degenerated from the dead. Therefore, in some places of Rakangai, there will be virtual infestation from time to time. Some souls are devoured by the ghost due to bad luck, while others are annihilated by the Shinigami from among the Suriidii. Shinigami, hostile to Su, although they live in the heavily hierarchical Suriidii, most of them are indeed working hard to maintain the stability of the world where the soul lives. Among the Suriidii, many Shinigami are divided into 13 teams, called Godii 13, which was an armed group that was gradually established 800 years ago. The reason for its establishment at that time was to concentrate more powerful forces to deal with this is a huge war for the entire Soul Society. The 11th team is the fighting team of Godii 13. The captains of all generations are called Kenpachi. Kenpachi is the name given to the strongest Shinigami by Godii 13. Every member of the 11th team respects the captain who bears the name of Kenpachi, and all Shinigami who hold such titles. It is our duty to protect the Soul Society. In the wilderness, the smell of blood and wine has not dissipated. Prior to this, Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th team, and many Shinigami from the 11th team, faced Minos Grande from Hueco Mundo here. Kenpachi easily defeated Minos Grande with Zampicut, which was never Shirkai. Then, to celebrate this victory, many Shinigami of the 11th team held a banquet at this venue. Team 8 Captain Kairaka Shunsui smelled the aroma of wine from a long distance and rushed here to participate in the reception. But no one expected that not long after the reception started, another man dressed in aristocratic costumes appeared here. He called himself Soya Mojo, and the purpose of coming here was to challenge Kenpachi. In Godii 13, the succession of captains has strict rituals. Let's talk about the rest of the teams, but the captain succession ceremony of the 11th team is the cruelest. Its succession ceremony is that by defeating the previous captain, you can become the new Kenpachi. In the past, with a few exceptions, most captains who were defeated died directly in the battle. The goal of Soya Malajo was immediately revealed. He wanted to become the new captain of Godii 13 by defeating Kenpachi. After understanding the other party's intentions, Team 8 Captain Kairaka Shunsui tried to persuade Soya Mojo, but unfortunately failed. In the end, it was Kenpachi who took the initiative to stand up and meet the challenge of Kenpachi. During the battle, the two fought to the point of losing both sides, but in the end, it was Mo Qingshuang who also won. This result was unacceptable to many officers and team members who had just witnessed Kenpachi defeating Minos Grande. To defeat their own captain, I have to seek justice from Mo Qingshuang. Among them, there was a young man, but their actions were stopped by Kenpachi. After stopping them, Tokiyoshiki Kenpachi yelled at the members of the 11th team, "You guys carry the number 11. Don't mess up the one-on-one duel." The air condensed under the overwhelming momentum of Tsurugashiki, making all the members of the 11th Division speechless. I died under the knife of this guy, And that's everything. I don't allow you to deny the iron rules of the 11th team. From today, this guy is Kenpachi. The words that the captain spit out afterwards made people feel strange. If the people present saw him yelling at his subordinates, and then blasted away the Shinigami who rushed up to teach the noble youth with Zanpakuto, everyone would definitely think that Takeshiki could still fight. However, then his face changed into an angry expression. He turned his head to look at Kayaraka Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division, and said some words, which meant that he and the general captain would relay a few words, so that the general captain would take care of him. Fan Mole City double also. Kayaraka Shunsui readily agreed. Kenpachi suddenly felt relieved, and his eyes fell on Soya Mojo again. Facing Soya Mojo's questioning, if you do Bankai directly, you should be able to win, he didn't refute, and used the last sentence. The words turned to Mo Chingshuang and said, "The 11th team, and these guys will be handed over to you." Kenpachi, the 7th generation Kenpachi, died immediately after saying these words. In the 11th team, in the team building, a young man slowly opened his eyes. In other words, I was born again. The young man spoke like this. His name is Gosuke Shigure, and he was the orphan adopted by Kenpachi at the beginning. When Kenpachi was defeated by Kenpachi of Mole City, he was the most unbelievable person. Because he couldn't accept the facts, he wanted to go to Mole City. Kenpachi asked for justice, but he didn't expect to be blocked by Kenpachi, and then fell asleep due to the impact of Kenpachi's aura. It seems that it is because of the blow that he has suffered too much. After he opened his eyes, there was an extra memory in his mind, or 2 memories. The first paragraph is the memory of his life as a social animal on Earth, and the second paragraph is the memory of him as a Shinigami thousands of years ago. That's right, this is his second Shinigami career. Looking back, he traveled to another world and was very excited when he learned that the world he was in was called Soul Society, but later he realized that he traveled a little too early, and there was no such thing as Godei 13 in Soul Society at that time. However, even so, he still strives to become a Shinigami. After all, Shinigami is fashionable enough. It seems that because of time travel, his talent is not bad. Ryatsu was born powerful, and then awakened an extremely powerful Zanpakuto. Because of his familiarity with the original setting, he once became one of the strongest Shinigami. Unfortunately, the Soul Society was not peaceful at that time. Not only faced with Hueco Mundo due to the pressure, there are also constant disputes within the Soul Society. In the end, although he had great strength, he still died because of Tai Lang. Logically speaking, after the death of a powerful Shinigami like him in his previous life, his soul should go to hell. But unexpectedly, he did not enter hell, but kept a ray of spirituality and kept reincarnating on the land of the Soul Society. In this life, it seems that because of some accident, he awakened the memory of his previous life. For Gosuke Shigure, reliving his life and awakening these memories is undoubtedly a good thing. After all, if you can live soberly, no one wants to die. Those things that happened thousands of years ago, after all, are already in the past, and they will go with the wind, so the name of the previous life, everything can be let go. But after excluding his life as a Shinigami in his previous life, he is an out-and-out Earthling, a traveler, and he is familiar with the plot. Although the current time period of this life is still many years away from the plot in the original book. But Kenpachi Mole City, and his own name will inevitably make him think of a lot. The memory of the 11th team flashed through his mind. In the current 11th team, because Kenpachi is an LSP and keen to recruit female players, compared to the 11th team in the original book, Fan Team has many female players. But whether it is a male player or a female player, there is only one surnamed Gosuke. That is this body Gosuke Shigure. In other words, my identity in this life is the 9th generation of Kenpachi in the future. In the original book, it wasn't even mentioned. It was just mentioned in the author's interview. Gosuke Kenpachi. What is Kenpachi ever? Chapter 2, I just want to be an ordinary Shinigami in this life. In the original book, there are 11 generations of Kenpachi up to Zaraki Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi is the 11th generation, and the 4th division Captain Unohana Retsu is the 1st generation Kenpachi. Unohana Retsu. Gosuke Shinzuru was very familiar in his previous life. For some reason, he had a lot of contact with the other party. He also fought against the other party many times in his previous life, and even taught her sword skills. Unohana Retsu, as first-generation Kenpachi, is self-evident. From the second generation to the sixth generation Kenpachi after her, the name is unknown, either died in the battle or died because of the challenge of others. There is nothing more to say. Anyway, since the establishment of Godiai 13, the replacement of captains should not be too much frequently. There are very few captains who can be more than 100 years old, and there are only a handful of captains who can be more than 200 years old. Seventh generation Kenpachi, Takushiki, is a well-deserved strongman, and he was favored by Team Zero and was invited verbally by Team Zero, but after all, it was only a verbal invitation, more like a joke. So no formal appointment to Central 46. All of this has to be attributed to the promotion conditions of Team Zero, which is the need to create something that has never existed before and is of great benefit to the progress of Soul Society civilization. Although Kenpachi is very strong, he is obviously not good at inventing. Guy, 8 generations of Kenpachi, who is now the controversial Mole City Kenpachi in the 11th team, can defeat Kenpachi, and his strength should not be underestimated. But if you follow the process of the original book, the next 2 generations of Kenpachi are the shame of Siriidii. The 9th generation Kenpachi, named Gosuke Kenpachi, is the deputy captain of Kenpachi in Mole City. After Kenpachi in Mole City was imprisoned for committing a serious crime, he became the 9th generation Kenpachi directly because he was neither the captain of the normal captain assessment ceremony, nor is it the Kenpachi that became by challenging the previous Kenpachi. Therefore, in the original book, the 9th generation Kenpachi of the 11th team is extremely weak. Not long after being Kenpachi, he was defeated by the barbarian Ghost Rock City from Rakangai. It's fine if Ghost Rock City is strong. Later, Ghost Rock City was cut down by Zaraki Kenpachi, which means that he is also a parallel importer. But compared to his water, Gosuke Kenpachi is obviously more water. Knowing that his identity in this life is Gosuke Kenpachi, the worst Kenpachi in history, Gosuke Shigure suddenly had the idea of changing his name. Could it be that as long as he is not surnamed Gosuke, he will not become Gosuke Kenpachi and then be nailed to the pillar of shame up? But after thinking about it, I gave up. Even if the future self does have the chance to become Kenpachi, that's in the future. It's hard to live now, and this era is undoubtedly much more stable than it was 1,000 years ago. Although the Soul Society will still be harassed by Hueco Mundo, Godiai 13 has been established, and there is a unified and stable armed group to maintain order. Compared with 1,000 years ago, I don't know how much better it is. In this life, he is going to learn the lessons of his previous life and be an ordinary Shinigami. Although we are now in the 11th team, not the 4th team, which is best to fish in troubled waters, the 11th team in this era seems to be pretty good, with a lot of female players, and the 11th team even has another name. It's called the Hana no Samurai Group. Of course, the premise is that the captain of the 11th team is not Ghost Rock City. And I want Ghost Rock City not to be the captain of the 11th team, but to be Kenpachi. It seems that I can't get around the Kenpachi who was nailed to the pillar of shame - Gosuke Kenpachi. No, maybe there is another way. Freshman Gosuke Shigure thought of someone. The person who just defeated Kenpachi, who will soon become the 8th generation Kenpachi Mole City. In the original book, Mo Qingshuang was finally sentenced to 10,000 years for committing a heinous crime and was imprisoned in the bottom of the underground prison. Although Mo Qingshuang is not a good person, but when he was Kenpachi, he really took on the responsibilities of Kenpachi. Take the lead in killing the emptiness and maintain the peace of the Soul Society. Perhaps it was because he saw the powerlessness of Shinigami and the strength of Hueco Mundo that he made the subsequent rebellion. If it can stop Ma Qingshuang, yeah. Can the future be changed by asking the other party to give up those crooked ideas and keep walking on the good road? Gosuke Shigure couldn't help thinking about it. In the team building, because Gosuke Shigure is unconscious, he is the only one present at the moment. Many Shinigami of the 11th team would never think of it. Because Kenpachi, brother and father, died, Gosuke Shigure fell into a coma under grief and anger. When he woke up, there was a new person inside. It would never have occurred to him that the person inside was busy thinking as soon as he woke up. The future of the 11th team. He is too busy. Gosuke Shigure didn't take too long to rest. After all, he would be sent here to rest. The reason is that the predecessor was too weak to withstand the powerful Ryatsu oppression released by Kenpachi, rather than being seriously injured when fighting the enemy head-on. After a while of self-cultivation, he almost recovered. After recovering, he first looked for a mirror to see his current appearance clearly. In terms of height, it is about 1.8 meters. In this world, it is not considered tall, but it is not considered short. Fortunately, this is the world of Shinigami, and there is still this world, many Shinigami, many of which are achieved by the souls of the world. If placed in the world of One Piece next door, his height would be considered short. In terms of appearance, Gosuke Shigure's appearance is not very handsome, but he is not ugly either. He is just an ordinary sunny boy. He looks about 20 years old. Combine the memories in your mind. He knew that his predecessor was the Rukongai orphan who had been rescued by Kenpachi. It is precisely because he was saved by Kenpachi that he was saved by Kenpachi, so he has a grudge about joining the 11th team. Later, after he successfully joined the 11th team, he always aimed to follow Kenpachi. Of course, this goal was achieved, but to be honest, from the current Gosuke Shigure's point of view, it is more Kenpachi who is taking care of the predecessor, and the fighting level of the predecessor is really hard to describe. No wonder it was killed by wastes like Ghost Rock City in the original book. In addition, what Gosuke Shigure cares most about his appearance in the mirror is probably the black, deadly costume. Aside from other things, Shinigami is still the most handsome in a deadly costume. The reason why he is so emotional, of course, is because in the era he originally lived in, there was no such thing as a deadly domineering outfit. The deadly costume is something that came out after the establishment of Godai 13. Its creator is called Shudara Senjumaru. Chapter 3 New Kenpachi in Gosuke Shigure's original era. There was no Godai 13. In that era, although there was also the existence of Shinigami. But Shinigami is definitely not as good as it is now, doing its best to maintain the order of the Soul Society. The so-called Shinigami are just a group of villains who pursue absolute power. Not only cut the false, but also cut people. If you want to survive in such a chaotic world, it depends on whose knife is sharper. After tidying up his clothes and sorting out the memories in his mind, he walked out of the 11th team's team building. After all, he wasn't injured in battle himself. It is also not suitable to rest for too long in the team building. Gosuke, you're awake. Not long after walking out of the team building, a bold female voice sounded. Gosuke Shigure looked sideways and saw a tall woman with a dark complexion and a deep scar on her face, which destroyed the original beauty. What's more noticeable is that she has only one left arm, and the clothes on the right arm are empty, and the sleeve robe is swinging wantonly with her footsteps. Yumi! Gosuke Shigure thought about it for a while and immediately recognized the other party and greeted the other party with the previous address. Gamasawa Yumi, the 9th seat of the 11th team, is a Shinigami who is as bold as a man despite being a woman. Don't think it would be strange for female Shinigami to appear in the 11th squad, which is the combat squad. This is actually not a strange thing. The current 11th team has a name in the outside world called Hana no Samurai Group, and there is a large proportion of female Shinigami in the team, all because of Kenpachi. It is a pity that in the original book, the 11th team added a Kenpachi named Ghost Rock City. During his period, most of the female members of the 11th team were eliminated and replaced by a group of vulgar bandits. Even though Ghost Rock City was hacked to death by Zaraki Kenpachi, in the 11th team, there was only one female member, the Vice Captain Kusajishi Ichiru, and more male Shinigami, although he had accepted all the memories of the original owner before. But reborn in this era, the memories of the past and the present are intertwined. Gosuke Shigure still feels that the current 11th team is very different. It's kind of weird, but it's still pretty good. Gosuke, you are really embarrassing. After saying hello, Gamasawa Yumi immediately complained to Gosuke Shigure. How could you be overwhelmed by the captain's aura? It seems that your practice is not enough. So how can you do it like this? Be the vice captain, because there is a 5 in the name. Gamizawa Yumi has a good relationship with the original Gosuke Shigure. Or in other words, Gosuke Shigure has a good relationship with most of the Shinigami of the 11th team. Even though his strength is not really strong, he can't hold back. Gosuke Shigure has been with Kenpachi in Takayashiki a long time ago. His qualifications are extremely old, and Gosuke Shigure has adept internal affairs ability. Most of the dead Shindu in the 11th team are a group of rough people who only like to fight. Talents like Gosuke Shigure are becoming more and more scarce. For this reason, Gosuke Shigure became the vice captain of the 11th team under the recommendation of many members. Only the 11th team is so special. In other teams, the position of vice captain is not so easy to take. But the 11th team is different. The members all like to fight, including the captain. But a team needs to do more than just fight, such as logistics, task distribution, and personnel deployment. These logistical tasks also need people to do. It was naturally impossible for the previous captains to do it. It is the vice captain who actually does these things. And because of the special nature of the 11th team, many members of the 11th team kept the position of vice captain at arm's length and would rather be a seat officer than a vice captain. Because in their view, the deputy captain has a lot of work and can't fight happily, which is not a good thing. Of course, if they are strong enough, they don't mind challenging the captain and trying to replace him as the new Kenpachi. However, even many members of the 11th team didn't think about it. They only dared to think about it. What hadn't been done would one day be done by an outsider they didn't know. Thinking of the captain's death at the hands of that man named Soya Mojo, Gamasoa Yumi felt uncomfortable for a while. However, due to the rules of the 11th team, she still didn't say anything in the end. After all, the captain died in a frontal battle, even if the timing of that person's challenge to the captain was wrong. After the captain had just fought with Minos Grande, since the rules allowed, that person's behavior was always beyond reproach. After sighing in her heart for a while, Gamizawa Yumi said to Gosuke Shigure again, "Gosuke, you woke up just in time. Come with me to the captain's room. Something is going on there." Gosuke Shigure's eyes flickered. He nodded slightly and said nothing. He followed Gamasawa Yumi to the direction of the captain's room. On the way, Gamasawa Yumi said to Gosuke Shigure, "Gosuke, I know that the captain's matter makes you very uncomfortable, but I hope you can think about it. The captain is anyway died in battle. No matter how much you hate that man, from the moment he defeated the captain, he is our new captain." Gosuke Shigure paused. Words of resentment or relief came out of his mouth. "I see. Go to the captain's room." Many officers and team members of the 11th team all came here. Fortunately, at the entrance of the captain's room of the 11th Division, there is a huge courtyard which can accommodate hundreds of Shinigami without any problem. Because of the death of Captain Kenpachi Yashiki, all the team members were saddened. But due to the order of the first team, they had to gather here again. The captain of Godii 13, Yamamoto Genrisai, the strongest Shinigami of Siriidii, came to the 11th team because of Kenpachi. Because the succession ceremony of the captain of the 11th team is completely different from that of the other teams. Therefore, when the captain was appointed, he was not appointed in the first room of the first team in front of many captains and vice captains, but directly came to the 11th team and was appointed in front of many players. Mojo City also defeated Kenpachi in a head-to-head confrontation. The witness was Kaiaraka Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division. After Godii 13 and Central 46 confirmed that Mojo City also complied with the succession rules for the captain of the 11th Division. From now on, Maching Shuangya is the new Kenpachi of the 11th team. That is the 8th generation Kenpachi. The captain explained the whole story in front of the Shinigami of the 11th squad. Then, behind him, an indifferent young man wearing the captain's Haori and not Zampakit, who looked like a nobleman, walked forward slowly, looked at the many members of the 11th team, and nodded slightly. Chapter 4: Simple and Unpretentious Life. A day like this is really unpretentious, quiet, and comfortable. In the captain's room of the 11th squad, Gosuke Shigure was sitting behind the desk, dealing with team affairs, and couldn't help expressing his emotion. A few days have passed since Mujo Soya became the 8th generation Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th squad. No matter whether the members of the 11th team are worried about the killing of Kenpachi Malajo, it will not change the fact that Malajo has become the new Kenpachi. And what makes many members of the 11th team feel better is that the new Maching Shuang also seems to have no intention of changing the 11th team after he succeeds as the captain of the 11th team, as if all he wants is to become the captain. Because Soya Mojo was only succeeded as the captain, and he was not yet familiar with the affairs of the 11th Squad. Therefore, a lot of team affairs, as before, fell on the vice-captain Gosuke Shigure. To be honest, dealing with team affairs is actually quite novel for the freshman Gosuke Shigure. In the previous life, that is, the Soul Society more than 1,000 years ago, it was not too chaotic at that time. Either I will kill you, or you will kill me. Although there are nobles, the nobles themselves are a group of newspapers for warmth. A villain who will blindly plunder profits. There should not be too many conflicts between civilians and nobles, and there are many so-called nobles who disappear in the melee. In such a situation, where is there any opportunity to deal with government affairs? These are things that only happened after Gosuke 13 was established. But fortunately, because he inherited Gosuke Shigure's memory completely, and as an ordinary person on the earth in his previous life, he also worked as a clerk for a while. Gosuke Shigure is also familiar with handling team affairs, and he quickly got started. In the eyes of the rest of the 11th Squad, dealing with team affairs is a boring job, and only a fool like Gosuke likes it. But in Gosuke Shigure's view, handling team affairs in such a quiet way, without hacking people or worrying about being hacked to death, is probably the good day he dreams of. Gosuke 13 was originally established to fight against the Quincy division headed by Uebach. After the Quincy Rebellion was put down, this organization was not disbanded. On the contrary, as an organization to maintain the order of the Soul Society, with the support of many nobles under this, it survived. Although the nobles are the ultimate beneficiaries, the civilians still failed in the struggle against the nobles. Although there is too much darkness behind the whole Siri, you have to admit that the existence of Gosuke 13 is indeed to maintain Soul Society stability. They concentrated all the power of the Soul Society in the small circle in the center, which is also more conducive to fighting Hueco Mundo. The 13 teams each performed their duties. The responsibilities of the 11th team are the simplest. They are a combat team, and most of the members are a group of reckless people who like to fight and have no brains. In the future, the Zampicut of the Kid series will not even be easy to take out in the 11th team. The whole team is proud of the Zampicut of the direct attack system. Also, because of this reason, the team affairs of the 11th team are actually very easy to handle. There is no need to collect clues, nor to sort out information. It is only necessary to conduct Ryatsu monitoring in the 12th division, and after determining where there is a virtual invasion, send a team to hack the virtual in that place to death. Soon, Gosuke Shigure distributed the tasks under his hands. The officer who received the task led his soldiers to fight excitedly. As for the chief executive who has no mission, he is somewhat disappointed. That's right, the 11th team is so simple and unpretentious. The members are eager to fight, looking forward to the arrival of the battle all the time, and even feel lost because there is no combat mission. Gosuke Shigure noticed the loss of those officers who had no mission, but didn't try to comfort them. Just when he finished handling the team affairs, he had nothing to do for a while and was wondering if he wanted to make a tea set later and drink tea here when he had nothing to do. A black hell butterfly flew to him. The hell butterfly is the messenger between the Shinigami and the guide who guides the souls of the dead after the Shinigami soul burial in this world to the Soul Society. It is an extremely important tool cultivated by the Shinigami. These days, the Technology Development Bureau has not yet been established. Once Shinigami creates something groundbreaking, they can enter the Zero team, which shows that the innovation ability is low. Most of the information transmitted between the 13 teams relies on this ancient and practical hell butterfly. The hell butterfly flew in front of Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure raised his hand, and immediately he was informed of strands of information. "I see," he said to the hell butterfly, and then let the hell butterfly return. After the hell butterfly left, his brows slightly raised. The situation is not good. A while ago, after Kenpachi fought Hueco Mundo's Vasto, Lord even Minos Grande, it stands to reason that Hueco Mundo should stop for a while. But only a few days later, in the fringe area of Rakongai, traces of Minos Grande appeared again up. A few Minos Grandes came across the border. After the 12th Division detected the Minos Grandes Ryatsu, they immediately informed the 11th Division of the incident. "Send this task to the chief?" Gosuke Shigure first thought of the previous officers who were a little disappointed because they didn't receive the task. Immediately, he shook his head. Although the officers of the 11th team are all good at fighting, they are all masters honed from battles, but after all, Minos Grande, even the most ordinary Jillian, has an extremely large body. Be injured and even die. Although it hasn't been long since he was reborn, because he inherited all the memories of his predecessor, Gosuke Shigure still doesn't want to see the scene of funerals for his companions. Of course, he also knew that he could not help these players for a lifetime. Sooner or later, they will face more dangerous tasks. But before that, he still doesn't mind helping the team members avoid some dangerous tasks under some circumstances within his ability. It's just a few Minos Grande. After having the rich combat experience in his previous life, Gosuke Shigure is not afraid. However, he didn't plan to carry out this mission himself. Even if he was the vice captain, he had the obligation to fight first. But on the other hand, he is only the vice captain, and above him, there is an even stronger towering tree. Ever since, Gosuke Shigure took this mission and decisively went to find Kenpachi, the new captain of the 11th team. Chapter 5, First Battle. Because of Gosuke Shigure's help with team affairs, Kenpachi seldom stays in the captain's room. There is a training room behind the captain's room of the 11th team. This is the place where Kenpachi honed his chopping technique in the old days. Because Kenpachi's Bankai is too powerful, Central 46 strictly forbids it to be used in Serie Di. Although he lost a powerful trump card, Kenpachi did not complain about himself. He thinks that even with Shirkai's ability, it is also enough to deal with all powerful enemies. Because of this, he honed an extremely powerful chopping technique. Without Zampakit and Kid, he can kill Minos Grande by himself only with slash and white hits. In the past, among the Serie Di, he also had a well-known title called One Rider is 1,000. But no one thought that such an extremely powerful man who had killed Vasto, Lord-level Minos Grande, on his own would die in the hands of Mole City Kenpachi. After Kenpachi took over as the captain of the 11th team in Mole City, he usually stayed in this training room most of the time. He also didn't train here like Kenpachi did in the past, just sitting quietly on the wooden floor. At his side, Zampakit was not placed either. No one knows what Kenpachi Mole City is doing here. When Gosuke Shigure came here, Kenpachi, who was in a daze alone in Mole City, raised his head and glanced at Gosuke Shigure. His expression did not fluctuate, and his tone was indifferent. What's the matter? The 12th Division detected a high-concentration Ryatsu reaction in the suburbs of the 68th District of East Rukongai, and several Minos Grandes invaded. It is difficult for ordinary officers to deal with Minos Grandes, let alone several Minos Grandes. Mole City Kenpachi immediately understood what was going on. His expression was as calm as ever. I see. I'll go right away. After becoming the captain of the 11th squad, you need to assume the responsibility of the captain and fight against Sue. Mole City Kenpachi understood this from the beginning, and he never resisted. Seeing that Mole City Kenpachi got up, he was about to rush to the 68th District of East Rukongai. Gosuke Shigure didn't know what he thought of, and suddenly said to Kenpachi, "Captain, I'll go with you. It's too dangerous for you to face Minos Grande alone, especially with your wounds still not healed." A while ago, Kenpachi Mole City challenged Kenpachi Takeshiki. Although he won the victory, he also suffered an extremely serious injury. It has only been a few days. Even after the treatment of the 4th team, Kenpachi Mole City's injury has not completely healed. After hearing Gosuke Shigure's words, Mole City Kenpachi paused, and indifferent words came out of his mouth. "It's up to you." Gosuke Shigure glanced at Kenpachi Mole City. His eyes flickered, and he smiled faintly. Leaving Serie Di, soon, Mole City Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure, the captain and deputy captain of the 11th team, came to Rukongai. Serie Di and Rukongai seem to be two completely different worlds. It's like the city and the countryside. Serie Di is extremely prosperous, and even has a commercial street exclusive to the nobles. But Rukongai is different, backward and barren, and sometimes the dead souls living here can even draw their swords at the surrounding dead souls for a bite to eat. Of course, that's what happens in the fringe areas. Generally, the souls of the dead living in the fringe areas, because of the lack of resources in the area, often fight endlessly for the only resources. The 68th district of East Rukongai, where Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure moved to, is a relatively backward area. When the two came here, they saw some dead souls fighting for the water source. But the two of them didn't pay attention to this kind of thing. Mole City Kenpachi is indifferent because he himself is an indifferent person. When he was very young, because of his family's experience, he didn't have a good impression of everyone and everything around him, and he was always on guard. In his opinion, the only thing he can rely on is himself from beginning to end. As for Gosuke Shigure, it was because he had seen many such things in his previous life, and he was numb to the point of numbness. He is not a saint, so naturally he has no intention of stopping it. Soon, they arrived at the outskirts of East Rukongai District 68. Once the void invades, the place where the Soul Society descends is irregular, appearing randomly in various parts of Rukongai. It is the best situation to appear in a suburb with vast land and sparsely populated like the current one. The worst, probably, is in the central area of Rukongai. In that case, even if Shinigami rushed towards the place where Sue descended immediately after receiving the news, it would still be slower, causing many dead souls to be swallowed by Sue. Although Sue could be killed in the end, strictly speaking, is not a good thing, because the reduction in the number of dead souls in Rukongai will break the balance. As for the balance, few people explain it. All in all, it's not a good thing. Therefore, when Zaishu appears in Rukongai, it needs to be hacked to death in time. Of course, Hollow only appears in Rukongai, never in Siriidii. Why? Naturally, it is because of the powerful soul-cloaking membrane that surrounds the Siriidii, and they block the coming of Sue. Six-headed Jillian. It's an ordinary giant monster. Gosuke Shigure glanced at the huge monster in front of him and said softly, while speaking, he changed his tone again. No, behind them, there is an unhealed black cavity and a Minos Grande Ajuches. When hearing Ajuches, Mole City Kenpachi's eyes lighted slightly. Hueco Mundo's Minos Grande is divided into 3 levels, namely Jillian, Ajuches, and Vasto Lord. Among them, Vasto Lord is the strongest, possessing a stronger strength than ordinary captains. Such a virtual, even in Hueco Mundo, there is not much. Ajuches in Hueco Mundo are considered powerful virtual. A while ago, there was an incident in Rukongai where Vasto Lord enslaved Ajuches and multiple Jillians attacked. Finally, the matter was resolved by Kenpachi, who was still alive. Unexpectedly, such a short time has passed, and this happened again, kind of thing. Hueco Mundo, what a woe! Turning to one side, Mole City Kenpachi said to Gosuke Shigure beside him, "Stay back." Judging from this posture, he is ready to deal with these Minos Grande alone. But Gosuke Shigure also had his own ideas. The captain can deal with that Ajuches to his heart's content. The 6 Jillians, leave it to me. Hearing this, Mole City Kenpachi couldn't help but glance at Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure looked calm, showing no expression. It's up to you. After Mole City Kenpachi said something, his figure flickered, and he cast Shumpa to attack Ajuches, who just came out of the black cavity. 31 have had red cannon. In the middle of the move, a had that gave up the chant was cast by Kenpachi. Chapter 6 1 Kill. For kills when Kenpachi cast Kid against Ajuches in Mole City. Gosuke Shigure looked at the 6-headed Jillian, who was clumsy but huge, with complicated eyes. He would say such things in front of Kenpachi, Mole City, not because he wanted to show off, nor because he was arrogant. Rather, he wanted to measure the strength of this body. Although he was reborn with the memories of his previous life and all his combat experience, after rebirth, he was quite satisfied with his current body. But after all, he hadn't fought yet. Right now, these Jillians are good test subjects. Although this is Minos Grande, it is only the lowest level of Minos Grande. As a vice captain, it's not out of the ordinary to deal with a few Jillians. While the thought flickered, Gosuke Shigure moved suddenly, and the Zampakit hanging from his waist suddenly came out of its sheath at the moment of his movement. He also does not perform Shirkai, just simply wave the Zampakit in the sealed state. Powerful spiritual power gushes out of his hand and pours into the blade, because Shinigami contains powerful spiritual power in his body, which is far better than the spiritual energy in the outside air, and then creates a strong negative pressure difference. This negative pressure difference both is Reiatsu. A powerful Shinigami can use this negative pressure difference to suppress the enemy, and even use it to create a powerful offensive. And when this power is used on Zanpakuto, what it forms is sword pressure. A white streamer flew out, and the terrifying sword pressure was cut by Gosuke Shigure. With one blow, Jillian's head was cut off immediately. When its head fell to the ground, it realized that it was dead, and then Jillian's powerful body fell to the ground. Just blocking to the front of Jillian on the other end blocked its footsteps. However, Jillian on the other end was not angry because of this. Not only because Jillian's IQ was extremely low, but also because it no longer had the possibility of anger. Gosuke Shigure's sword continued to slash after killing one Jillian, and then penetrated the bodies of 3 Jillians one after another, killing the 3 Jillians directly. This is certainly no coincidence. It was Gosuke Shigure who did it on purpose, ready to time the 4 Jillians in a straight line. 1 kill and 4 kills. Unfortunately, bad luck failed to complete the pentakill. Because of this, Gosuke Shigure felt a little depressed, so he cast Shuinpo again and came to the side of the remaining 2 Jillians, and each made a stab. After 2 stabs, the 2 tall bodies fell to the ground, and the last 2 Jillians also dead. Although he didn't perform Shurikai, he couldn't hold back. Gosuke Shigure's combat experience in his previous life was too rich. Such a Jillian killed 800 people instead of 1,000. He really doesn't have much technical content to deal with this kind of ghost. The reason for doing this kind of non-technical thing is to test whether this body is used to it. So far, not bad. Although he has the bonus of rich combat experience in his previous life, he has only been reborn not long after all. Even though Gosuke Shigure is satisfied with his current body, he has never fought before, and he does not know if he has any hidden diseases. Just like Kachiki Aojuin, the father of Byakuya Kachiki in the original book, he looks like a dog, and he also served as the vice captain of the 6th team. But in the end, he was physically weak and died directly in the battle. After this battle, Gosuke Shigure has some understanding of his current body. Maybe it's because he has experienced a lot of battles with Kenpachi in the past. This body has excellent bones. Reiatsu is not too strong, not even the level of vice captain, but he is also at the level of a former officer. Yes, because of the selection of many officers of the 11th squad, it is basically no problem to serve as a vice captain. The knife that Gosuke Shigure slashed earlier basically consumed nearly half of the spiritual power in his body. However, he is not worried. In the final analysis, apart from innate strength, such things as spiritual power can be acquired. Like the masking of Shinigami and the virtualization of Arankar, it will make its Reiatsu skyrocket. Of course, this is an unconventional means. As for the more conventional means, if you want to make Reiatsu skyrocket, there is a relatively simple way. That is to liberate Zanpakuto. In normal Shurikai, Shinigami Reiatsu will increase by about 1 or 2 times, while Bankai is powerful. After Bankai, Shinigami's Reiatsu will increase by 5 to 10 times on the basis of Shurikai. As long as Shinigami can learn when it was Bankai, its Reiatsu itself was strong enough to reach the threshold of Bankai. In such a situation, if Zanpakuto was liberated, even if Reiatsu had not reached the captain level before, he would definitely be able to reach the captain level after liberation. Therefore, it is not a joke that Bankai can serve as the captain. But after Bankai, to some extent, he did meet the standard of being a captain. The current situation of Gosuke Shigure is that the predecessor has mastered Shurikai, but has not yet mastered Bankai. In other words, there is still a lot of room for improvement. Not to mention, in Gosuke Shigure's body at this moment, the one who really dominates this body is an old monster who has lived in the Soul Society for countless years and experienced many battles. A set of ways to increase spiritual power in the body and increase Reiatsu. After feeling the situation in his body, Gosuke Shigure looked at the battle on the Mole City Kenpachi again. Obviously, Gosuke Shigure is only the vice captain, but the battle on his side ended faster than that of the Captain Kenpachi. It's not surprising, though, who called Gosuke Shigure's enemies are weaker, just the usual Jillian. The enemy of Kenpachi, the Mole City, is an Ajuchis. If Kenpachi of the Mole City changed his fighting style, he could kill Ajuchis faster, but for some reason, he didn't use Zanpakuto, and even he didn't see Zanpakuto with him. He just used Kid to fight Ajuchis. But I have to say that Kenpachi is worthy of being a captain-level Shinigami. He is very good at using Kid with one hand. When Gosuke Shigure was watching Kenpachi, he was also beating this Ajuchas all the time. In the end, a powerful fiery lightning howl directly annihilated the Ajuchas in the thunder. So far, the seven-headed Minos Grande, who invaded Rakangai, have all been dealt with by the captain and deputy captain of the 11th team. After killing Ajuchas, Kenpachi glanced at the 6 Jillian corpses not far away, but he didn't intend to collect them. After being killed, it's okay not to collect the corpses, because after a while, they will Hokai, and then turned into a spirit sun and return to the earth. Compared with collecting Jillian's body, it was the vice captain Gosuke Shigure who surprised Kenpachi in Mole City. Chapter 7 Kairaku Shuinsue's Invitation. Jillian is the lowest Minos Grande though, but it is not so easy to deal with. Perhaps, for the captain, this kind of thing is a miscellaneous fish that can be killed casually, but for ordinary Shinigami, if you want to deal with it, you must at least have the strength of an officer. Even though Gosuke Shigure was the vice captain, there was not just one Jillian. There were 6 of them. Being able to kill all 6 Jillians in such a short period of time is enough to show that Gosuke Shigure is not bad. Mole City Kenpachi couldn't help but think of the previous generation Kenpachi who died in his hands. Even he, who is extremely indifferent in matters of emotion, has to admit that Kayashiki is a real hero, and his strength is extremely terrifying. If Bankai of Kayashiki was not able to use it for some reason, and he used the airblade back then, such disgraceful means really can't kill Tsukiyashiki. Gosuke Shigure's ability to serve as the vice captain of Kenpachi is really unique. When he first served as the captain of the 11th team, Kenpachi only had the idea of needing a vice captain, so he didn't change everything about the 11th team. He continued to let Gosuke Shigure serve as the vice captain, and he didn't even intervene in team affairs. All team affairs are handed over to Gosuke Shigure. In the past few days, Gosuke Shigure has also handled all team affairs in an orderly manner. Today, after going through this battle, Malajo Kenpachi knows Gosuke Shigure a little better. In his mind, Gosuke Shigure has changed from a simple vice captain of the 11th squad to a talented person. Of course, that's all. Putting away those thoughts in his heart, Mole City Kenpachi said to Gosuke Shigure, "Let's go back." Gosuke Shigure nodded. Back to Team 11. Life seemed peaceful for a while. Mole City Kenpachi is completely different from Kenpachi, who likes to joke and mingle with the players, or 2 extremes. He has an indifferent personality and usually doesn't communicate with the players very much. Most of the time, he also likes to stay in the training room behind the captain's room. Not training, just sitting there alone, no one knows what he is doing. In terms of team affairs, he basically handed over to Gosuke Shigure. Over time, the members of the 11th team also know that Kenpachi is a weirdo. Fortunately, there is one thing they can still accept. That is, the Mole City Kenpachi has never tarnished the name of Kenpachi. Whenever Minos Grande was called upon to fight, he never refused to fight, take the lead, and always be able to kill Minos Grande in the first place. Compared with that weird, it could be called indifferent personality, his strength has been recognized by the public. After all, he was the one who defeated Kenpachi in a head-to-head confrontation. But if the members of the 11th team were asked to choose between Kenpachi and Kenpachi, most of them would still choose Kenpachi. No way. Who told Kenpachi to be more approachable? And after each battle, there will be a reception. They sang songs, drank wine, and celebrated the victory of the battle. It was such a happy day. But in the era of Mole City Kenpachi never had the idea of doing such a thing. Compared with the discomfort of ordinary players, Gosuke Shigure didn't have much emotion even because of the resurrection. He also looked down on Kenpachi's death. In his opinion, people are mortal. Why the dead one can't be Takayashiki? Compared with death, he cared more about his rebirth. Alive again, although the Soul Society is still quite messy and needs to fight Hueco Mundo from time to time. But compared to thousands of years ago, it seems that it is not as chaotic as imagined. Usually, I deal with team affairs most of the time, and occasionally go to a battle to vent. This kind of peaceful life can be said to be something I dreamed of in my previous life. On this day, when Gosuke Shigure was handling team affairs, an uninvited guest came to the captain's room. "Gosuke, You really did your best." A slightly mocking voice came from the door. Gosuke Shigure raised his head, looked at the person who came, and nodded slightly. King Band Leader. The person who came was wearing a bamboo hat and a flowered robe over the captain's white feather weaving. This is an exception among all the captains of Godai 13. There is only one person dressed like this, and that is the captain of the 8th Division, Kayaraka Shunsui. As the beloved student of Chief Captain Yamamoto Jinrasai, the first outstanding graduate of Spiritual Arts Academy, and the earliest graduate to become captain, Kayaraka Shunsui has very old qualifications in Godai 13 and is a veteran captain. One thing for sure in Godai 13 is that the older captains are definitely strong. Because of the weak ones, they have already died in years of fighting. Is the band leader Kyo here for something? Gosuke Shigure asked Kayaraka Shunsui. Kayaraka Shunsui said with a smile, "When I have nothing to do, I came to the 11th team for a walk. I haven't been here for a while. It seems that there is no change here, but a lot of changes have taken place. When Kenpachi was still alive, he and Kayaraka Shunsui were good friends, and they often drank together. So Kayaraka Shunsui was a frequent visitor to the 11th team. When Kenpachi defeated Minos Grande, Kayaraka Shunsui held a celebratory reception. Kayaraka Shunsui was the guest who attended the reception. It was also at this reception that Kenpachi challenged Kenpachi. Kayaraka Shunsei's words seem like nonsense and inconsistent. While saying that the 11th team has not changed its methods, it also said that there have been great changes. But this is exactly how he feels. When he came to the 11th team, on the surface, it seemed that the 11th team was operating as usual without any changes, and the players were still so brave and good at fighting. But compared to the time of Kenpachi, there is something missing after all. That's laughter. Kenpachi is a real hero. He treats people kindly, and he does not despise the weak because of his own strength. When he is a Kenpachi, even ordinary soldiers can fight against him. Joke! The members of the 11th team are eager to fight, and even more eager to celebrate the reception held by their captain after the battle is won. Sadly, none of that exists anymore. This is of course related to trusting Captain Mole City Kenpachi as an indifferent man. Kayaraka Shunsui wants to change this situation. Although after Kenpachi became the captain, as a senior nobleman, he investigated Kenpachi and learned what happened to the family of Mole City in the past, which is what led to the death of Mole City. The reason why Kenpachi became so cold. But people will eventually change. Invite Mole City Kenpachi to several receptions. Maybe it can change the other parties in different character. This time, he came to Kenpachi with this idea in mind. Kenpachi of Mole City met him, but unfortunately, he directly and decisively refused to participate in the reception. This makes Kayaraka Shunsui, who claims to be kind and approachable, a little depressed. He didn't expect that he would be rejected here. Compared with the indifferent Mole City Kenpachi, the former members of the 11th team are easier to get along with. Kayaraka Shunsui looked at Gosuke Shigure. "Gosuke, would you be interested in going out for a drink with me? It should be very boring if you have to deal with team affairs all the time." Anyway, Kayaraka Shunsui doesn't like to deal with team affairs and usually hides whenever he can. Compared with dealing with boring team affairs, it's more chic and happy to go out and drink. Chapter 8A, Place Not Suitable for Children. After hearing Kayaraka Shunsei's words, Gosuke Shigure froze. However, he did not refuse. After all, he is not a rigid person himself. In his previous life, he lived a life of licking blood on the tip of a knife. Sometimes, after a battle, he always needs to vent. Things like wine and SX are the best vents. Since it is the invitation of the leader of the Beijing band, I can only be respectful rather than obedient. Gosuke Shigure's words were polite. Kayaraka Shunsui also froze when he heard such words. It's not surprising that other people say such polite words, but it seems extraordinarily weird to appear in the 11th team full of reckless people. Temporarily put down the team affairs and left the 11th team with Kayaraka Shunsui. Suriidai is not as vast as the Rukongai of the 4 regions, but it is definitely not small. This is the area where nobles and Shinigami lived. In addition to the rich spirit during the period, in order to facilitate the life of the nobles, there are also many areas for nobles to live and entertain here. A place like Kabukicho is naturally indispensable. Gosuke Shigure originally thought that Kayaraka Shunsui took him to drink, to a place in a tavern, or a private reception with several captains and vice-captains. Unexpectedly, he took himself directly to the Kabuki town near Noble Street. Business in Kakacho is very good. At the entrance, there are several huge sakura flower trees planted. When a breeze blows, the pink sakura flowers fly down, bringing the smell of rouge and wine to the nostrils, showing the luxurious atmosphere. Occasionally, people in noble costumes can be seen coming and going. Many of them were people whom Kayaraku Shunsui knew. After seeing Kayaraka Shunsui, they greeted Kayaraka Shunsui politely. This is not surprising. In addition to being the captain of Godai 13, Kayaraka Shunsui is also the head of the upper-class nobleman Jingle family. In the Soul Society, many aristocratic forces are headed by the 5 nobles, and below them are many higher-level nobles, and the Jingle family is the best of these higher-level nobles. In the world of fantasy novels, it can be called a half-step perfect nobleman. Under the leadership of Kayaraku Shunsui, Gosuke Shigure stepped into this Kabuki town. In Kabuki town, there are many private rooms, all of which are separated by sliding doors and are dotted with sandalwood and the like, exuding a faint fragrance. Among the various private rooms, there is also a small stage, which is a place for kabuki to perform in kabuki. Of course, this is a private performance. In addition to this small stage outside the private room, there is a very spacious place where there is a big stage. The kabuki dance some unsuitable dances there. Gosuke Shigure knew with just a few glances that this was a place only grown-ups could come to. Ever since, his curious eyes fell on Kayaraku Shunsui's face, the leader of the Beijing band. He never thought that Kayaraka Shunsui would bring him to this kind of place. Could he come to this kind of place that is not suitable for children and will be banned at every turn? Oh, he's grown up? That's fine. There is nothing embarrassing about Kayaraka Shunsui. After all, they are adults and not children. He smiled and explained to Gosuke Shigure, I originally wanted to invite your Captain Kenpachi to come and relax. After all, his temperament is too dull, although it may have something to do with his past. But now that he has become the captain of Godai 13, it is better to get out as soon as possible, instead of locking himself in a small room. Unfortunately, he rejected my invitation. Fortunately, Gosuke, you didn't reject me. Kayaraka Shunsui told the whole story. Gosuke understands it, and feelings themselves are a spare tire. Kayaraka Shunsui originally wanted to invite Kenpachi Mole City, but Kenpachi Mole City couldn't come, so he became himself. Gosuke Shigure wasn't annoyed, though. Compared with this trivial matter, what he cares more about is the past of the Mole City Kenpachi mentioned by Kayaraka Shunsui. You mean the past of Captain Mole City? What happened to his past? To be honest, Gosuke Shigure doesn't know much about the Mole City Kenpachi, even though he is a human being in the third life and has the memories of the previous life on Earth. I only know that the other party used Zampakit's particularity to defeat the 7th generation Kenpachi and became the 8th generation Kenpachi. Later, because of planning something, he became a sinner and was imprisoned in Wujian, a large underground prison. A few years later, shortly after Aizen was imprisoned, he escaped from prison, was defeated by Zaraki Kenpachi, and was imprisoned again in Inferno. Beyond that, he doesn't know. Whether it is the past of Kenpachi Mole City or what he is planning, it is not very clear. After all, the memory is too long. It was not easy for him to remember such a person as Mole City Kenpachi. A complex look appeared on Kayaraka Shuinsue's face. I shouldn't have told you about this, but since you asked Gosuke, I'll tell you. I also investigated him after defeating Takeshiki in Mole City and becoming the new Kenpachi. Judging from his appearance, he is undoubtedly an aristocrat. It is impossible for such an aristocratic master to be unknown before. This investigation really allowed me to discover his past. Machin Kenpachi's full name is Machin Shuanya. He was originally the eldest son of the Machin family. The Machin family was a low-class nobleman. Many years ago, due to an accident, the Machin family fell into decline. Although the Machin family is only a low-level nobleman, but there are still some resources in the family that have attracted outsiders' prying eyes. So, under the intervention of outsiders, members of the Maching family died one after another. The only sister of Mole City also died in order to protect him and fought against Minos Grande at the execution site. But even so, some people were still unwilling to let the surviving Mole City go. It was at this time that he awakened his own Zampicut. The power of Zampicut makes all those around him die. When the stealth maneuver arrived, Maching was the only survivor left. Originally, the families of those who died were planning to retaliate against Mole City. But in the end, with the intervention of the great nobles, the matter was settled. Because of this incident, Mojo didn't join Godei 13, so that before he came forward to challenge Kenpachi, even I didn't know that Siriidei still has such a master. Kayaraka Shunsui sighed after finishing explaining the reason of the matter. Perhaps it is precisely because of my childhood experience that Mole City has become so indifferent. There are also some words that Kayaraka Shunsui did not say. For example, Maching is clearly an aristocrat, but he minimized the characteristics of nobility on his body, leaving only the most basic symbols, which represent the status of nobility, which in itself explains something. It shows Kenpachi's resistance to the nobles. But even if he resists the nobles, it can't change the fact that the Maching family is also a noble. That's why he had such a contradictory dress. Chapter 9, The Mole City Kenpachi's Problem. So that's how it is. Knowing a little about the past of the Mole City Kenpachi, Gosuke Shigure nodded. In Kayaraku Shuinsue's words, some words appear vague. But Gosuke Shigure knew that by some of the people he was talking about, he was referring to nobles. Nobility, in the final analysis, is just a good name. In fact, they may not be much more virtuous than ordinary people. They are a group of meat-eating wolves, not only eating away at the interests of the common people, but also unwilling to let go of the interests of the nobles. From the birth of the Soul Society, from the birth of the group of nobles, it is unknown how many nobles have died out. Some of them died accidentally because of the battle with Hueco Mundo, and more of them died by means of companions who belonged to nobles. What happened to Kenpachi in Mole City is not surprising. After learning about the past of Kenpachi, Gosuke Shigure did not take the initiative to mention Kenpachi, but drank wine with Kayaraka Shunsui. They all came to this kind of place that is not suitable for children. Of course, you have to enjoy it. In particular, today is the Kayaraka Shunsui treat. His eyes fell on the kabuki on the big stage outside the private room, and Gosuke Shigure showed admiration as he watched the other party's twisting waist. Kayaraka Shunsui held a glass of wine, took a sip, and teased, "I thought, Gosuke, you don't like this kind of place, but now it seems that I think too much." Gosuke Shigure turned his head and glanced at Kayaraka Shunsui. How can there be men who don't like this kind of place? Anyone who doesn't like this kind of place is either not a normal man, or he has a bigger desire in his heart, and the bigger desire suppresses the instinct of the body. Kayaraka Shunsui was taken aback for a moment, then smiled and said, "That's true." At the same time, he couldn't help but think of Kenpachi, the Mole City, who rejected him. Mole City, what kind of man are you? Kayaraka Shunsui is not familiar with the man who killed Tsukiyashiki and became the new Kenpachi, but he could sense a dangerous aura from him. This may be the reason why he wants to close the relationship with Kenpachi and change the character of the other party. Among the singing and dancing towns, because of the presence of Kayaraku Shunsui, Gosuke Shigure still didn't show more of a man's nature after all, doing too many inappropriate things. In this way, he drank flower wine with Kayaraka Shunsui here for half a year, watching the kabuki lady writhing for a long time in order to survive, and finally, he left here with Kayaraka Shunsui, who was also drunk with the smell of alcohol all over his body. It was already night when they left Kabukicho, and the two headed towards their respective teams. Back to the familiar 11th team. Although he drank a lot of wine, Gosuke Shigure was not too drunk except for the smell of alcohol on his body. On the contrary, he was in a good state of mind and was about to finish the unfinished team affairs. Just stepped into the vicinity of the captain's room. Under the darkness, a figure caught his attention. Gosuke Shigure frowned slightly, and then said, "Captain." Under the night, a figure stood quietly in the courtyard in front of the captain's room. There was no moon tonight, so he stood in the darkness like this, not knowing what he was thinking. "It's Gosuke." Mole City Kenpachi spoke. His tone was as indifferent as ever, he stood in the darkness so that others could not see his face clearly. The leader of the Beijing band invited me out for a drink. Gosuke Shigure explained, and then asked Kenpachi, "It's so late. Why doesn't the leader go to rest and stand here?" Mole City Kenpachi did not answer the question, but remained silent. After being silent for a while, Mole City Kenpachi suddenly asked Gosuke Shigure, "Gosuke, what do you think of Hueco Mundo?" Gosuke Shigure's eyes froze. He didn't expect Kenpachi Mole City to ask such a question. However, he still gave an answer. Hueco Mundo and Soul Society are like one body with two sides. After the death of human beings in this world, the soul either falls into Hueco Mundo or enters Soul Society. Even if it devours everything, we cannot deny that the existence of Soul Society has its meaning, and it forms a certain balance with Soul Society. Of course, if there are too many ghosts, it's not good, and it will break the balance. That's why Shinigami needs to cut the ghosts to maintain this balance. Is it balance? I don't know if it was an illusion, but Gosuke Shigure heard a complex meaning in Kenpachi's words, and he heard Kenpachi say again, "This is your opinion." Mole City Kenpachi seems a little surprised and disappointed by Gosuke Shigure's opinion, but he didn't continue to dwell on this issue for too long and asked another question to Gosuke Shigure. "What do you think of nobles?" "Can I answer this question?" Gosuke Shigure muttered inwardly. Although he is the vice captain of the 11th team, in the final analysis, he was born as a commoner. And it is always the nobles who really hold the power of Siriidii. Nobles will be high above. All of this is related to the birth of this world. The world was born because of them, so they're the biggest beneficiaries. Of course, Gosuke Shigure is not afraid of the so-called aristocrats. But this is Siriidii after all, and it is better not to say some things so as not to cause unnecessary trouble. Well, it seems that you can't answer my question. Mole City Kenpachi sighed with some regret. Immediately, ignoring Gosuke Shigure, turned around and left here. Gosuke Shigure looks at the departed Mole City Kenpachi. The words that Kaiaraka Shunsui said in Kabuki Town came to mind again, about the past of the Mole City Kenpachi. After the conversation with Kenpachi that night, Mole City Kenpachi never asked Gosuke Shigure a similar question. The new captain of the 11th team was as indifferent as ever. But when it's time to strike, he's never polite. The members of the 11th team still don't have much intimacy with Kenpachi, the Mole City, but that resistance has gradually disappeared with the passage of time. In other words, they have gradually accepted the new Kenpachi. Gosuke Shigure is also completely used to the life of the vice captain. The peaceful days passed quietly. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed. A year is not a particularly long time for ordinary people, but it is even shorter for Shinigami, who live for hundreds or thousands of years. At best, it is about the same as a month for ordinary humans. Just when Gosuke Shigure was completely used to such a peaceful life, on this day, while drinking with Kaiaraka Shunsui, he heard a news from Kaiaraka Shunsui. Chapter 10. The Missing Soul Incident. Kaiaraka Shunsui is a veteran wanderer. He is free and easy, likes to search for flowers and willows, and goes to and from the land of wind and moon. But he always adheres to the habit of living among thousands of flowers and not touching his body with a single leaf. The so-called not sticking to the body means that after so many years, he is still an old bachelor. However, although he is an old bachelor, it is undeniable that Kaiaraka Shunsui is very popular. During his long career as captain, he did not know how many drinking buddies he met. Normally, the captain of the 8th Division's favorite thing to do is to go drinking with all kinds of friends. Gosuke Shigure, but one of his many drinking buddies. In addition to drinking, Kaiaraka Shunsui will also share with Gosuke Shigure the latest anecdotes in Siriidii. The 8th Division is an intelligence team. Although Kaiaraka Shunsui, the captain, is not doing his job properly, if there is any latest news, he can always know it as soon as possible. "Gosuke, have you heard about the disappearance of souls?" Kaiaraka Shunsui said something casually. Gosuke Shigure's eyes froze. When he heard this sentence, a name flashed in his mind for the first time. Aizen Suk. In the original book, Hirako Shinji and other captains were killed by Hollow, and the cause of that incident was the disappearance of the soul. Because Aizen secretly carried out the Hollow experiment, A large number of Rokangai's ordinary dead souls disappeared, which then attracted the attention of Siriidi. Godei 13 sent the captain to investigate, but they did not expect that Aizen was fishing from the beginning. He was no longer satisfied with carrying out the hollow experiment on ordinary souls, and set the target on the captain and vice captain. Hirako Shinji and others were tricked, and Urahara Kisuke liked to blame him. And Aizen, as the winner, got away with it until 100 years after that incident, when he had a complete showdown and stopped acting. Gosuke Shigure immediately vetoed it after going through the whole story of this big incident in his mind. No, it should not be Aizen. At least the time of that incident should not be now. You know, Hirako Shinji is not the captain now. He looked at Kaiaraka Shunsui again and asked curiously, "Oh, listen to what the leader of the Beijing band said." Kaiaraka Shunsui didn't mean to hide it. Otherwise, it would be impossible to take the initiative to talk about it in front of Gosuke Shigure. It happened recently. The Siriidi Research Institute under the 12th Division detected that Rokangai souls began to appear in large quantities. Disappeared, so I reported this matter to the first team, and then the first team passed this matter to our 8th team. I want our 8th squad to find out the cause of the matter. You also know that my 8th team is an intelligence team, which is responsible for investigating intelligence. But even so, I sent someone to investigate for a while, but I still found nothing. Didn't I think of you when I was drinking with you today? Gosuke, you're also a vice captain anyway, and the 11th team often goes to Rukangai to fight against Sue. If you find anything unusual, please let me know as soon as possible. Oh! After Kaiaraka Shunsui finished speaking, Gosuke Shigure understood immediately. Emotion is a problem that the first team sent to the 8th team. Kaiaraku Shuinsue's investigation was fruitless, so he wanted to get clues from other sources. The bottom of my heart was clear, but verbally, Gosuke Shigure still said softly, "I know. I will let the team members pay attention to this matter." Kaiaraka Shunsui nodded. "Stop talking. Keep drinking, Gosuke. Your drinking capacity is really getting better and better," Gosuke said with a smile. After all, drinking capacity will increase. When he said this, he inevitably slandered Kaiaraka Shunsui. Obviously, he doesn't hold much alcohol, but he still likes to drink. Basically, every time Kaiaraka Shunsui and Gosuke Shigure drink, Kaiaraka Shunsui gets drunk. Back to Team 11. Captain Mole City Kenpachi is not there again. Recently, the whereabouts of Kenpachi in Mole City have become more and more strange. He didn't stay in the captain's room, nor did he stay in the training room behind the captain's room like before. No one knew where he went or what he did. Gosuke Shigure took care of the team. In my mind, I remembered what Kaiaraka Shunsui said again, showing thoughtfulness. Until the evening. Captain Mole City Kenpachi has just returned. He is still dressed in the same unchanging way, and Zanpakuto is not seen on his body. "Captain, you're back." Gosuke Shigure greeted Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi nodded, serious. Gosuke Shigure is an extrovert since Machin Kenpachi didn't speak. Then he just took the initiative to speak. "By the way, the leader of the Beijing band told me something today." Mole City Kenpachi still didn't speak, just looked at Gosuke Shigure, which meant to let Gosuke Shigure speak. Recently in Rukangai, there has been a large-scale disappearance of souls. The 8th team is trying to investigate the whole story of this incident, but they have not found any clues, so the leader of the Beijing band asked me for help. He wants our 11th team help keep an eye on this. When Gosuke Shigure was talking about this, he had been staring at Kenpachi Mole City, paying attention to the expression of Kenpachi Mole City. Although it disappeared soon, Gosuke Shigure still noticed that after he said this, a strange color flashed in Kenpachi's eyes. After Gosuke Shigure finished speaking, Mojo Kenpachi said, "Since the leader of the Beijing band has begged for you, you should tell the matter and let the players pay more attention." "Yes," Gosuke Shigure responded. Mole City Kenpachi didn't intend to stay here for a long time. Even if this is the captain's room, the real owner here is actually him. But he would rather let the vice captain Gosuke Shigure handle team affairs here. But he has no intention of staying here for a long time. "Wait until the Mole City Kenpachi leaves." Gosuke Shigure spoke softly. "Sure enough, is this matter related to you?" Although the strange color in Kenpachi's eyes was concealed quickly, Gosuke Shigure still saw it, and then he had the answer in his heart. Although he knew that Kenpachi Mole City was a very ambitious person. In the original book, he was sentenced to be imprisoned in Wujian because he planned something, but Gosuke Shigure did not expect that the other party would start to take action so quickly, and then it's time to move on. According to the original book, it won't be long before Kenpachi of Mole City will surrender himself to Central 46 because of the conspiracy, and then be imprisoned in the bottom of the underground prison. But in the past year, getting along with each other has been quite pleasant after all. In addition, Gosuke Shigure is also very satisfied with the current position of vice captain and really has no intention of becoming captain and serving as Kenpachi. He'd like to try and stop Kenpachi if he could. Chapter 11 for balance time, and a few days passed. It seems that it is because of knowing from Gosuke Shigure that the 8th Division is investigating the disappearance of Rukongai's soul. Mole City Kenpachi has not been out for a while. Instead, as before, he stayed alone in the training room behind the captain's room. Gosuke Shigure didn't bother Kenpachi, the Mole City either. During the one-year relationship, the captain and vice captain don't talk much, but they have a tacit understanding. Kenpachi trusts Gosuke Shigure and entrusts all team affairs to Gosuke Shigure. When he shot to Kutsu. The rest of the time, he basically doesn't care about anything. Sometimes, officials like Yumi Gamasawa even tease Gosuke Shigure in front of Gosuke Shigure. Compared with Kenpachi, who just has the name of Kenpachi and captain for nothing, Gosuke Shigure is more like the real captain. For these remarks, Gosuke Shigure just laughed and did not respond. This day, Kenpachi, who had been in the fan team for a few days, went out again. Although his going out is very covert, he still never hides it from Gosuke Shigure. Is it so unbearable? Gosuke Shigure whispered to himself, immediately put down the writing brush in his hand. Instead of continuing to deal with team affairs, he mentioned Zanpakuto and left here. North Rukongai 80 District, Zaraki District. This is a well-deserved place of poverty. It is extremely barren and lacks resources, but even in such a place, there are still many souls living here. Of course, the areas where souls live are not actually chosen by themselves. Instead, it is assigned by Siriidii. The souls who come to the Soul Society will be distributed sorting coupons, which will be distributed to the 80 regions in the southeast, northwest, and north according to the order of death. Among them, the more front the area, the richer the resources, while the latter area is the lack of resources. After reaching the 78th area, the lack of fresh water becomes more and more serious. A strong soul is not bad. It can forcefully cross regions and go to more prosperous regions to occupy a place to survive. And weak souls can only stay in the area they are assigned to survive. For many souls, living in the back area is not what they want to choose, but since they're all assigned here, in order to survive, they can only do whatever it takes. This also led to the more sturdy the folk customs as they went to the back area. Especially in the last few areas, those who can survive are all villain-level characters. Although Kenpachi, the Mole City, is indifferent and ruthless when carrying out his goals and doing experiments, he chose the last few areas. After all, the souls here are all villains. Even if they die, there is nothing to be pitted about. On a barren hill, Mole City Kenpachi stood quietly. In front of him, several souls screamed in pain. Powerful spiritual power gushed out from them. But it didn't last too long. The souls couldn't bear the powerful. It collapsed directly, and then turned into spirit particles and dissipated between heaven and earth. The screams suddenly stopped. Looking at the disappearing soul, Mole City Kenpachi frowned slightly. Isn't it still okay? During this time, he tried to experiment with his Zanpakuto. He wants to transform Rukongai's soul, so that ordinary souls can also have powerful power. In Hueco Mundo, voids are being born every moment. Not so with Soul Society. The number of Shinigami is limited. There are only a few hundred Shinigami in each team, and the entire Godii 13 adds up to a few thousand Shinigami. Except for the captain, vice captain, and many seats. Most of the Shinigami are unbearable. It was so powerful that even a mediocre Minos Grande like Jillian couldn't handle it. If things go on like this, Hueco Mundo will surely destroy Soul Society. So, is there a way around this? Mole City Kenpachi first thought of Rukongai. There are countless souls living in Rukongai, and every moment the dead come to Rukongai to start a new life as souls. Although there are some souls with Shinigami qualifications among them, they are only a few after all. Most of the souls spend their lives in mediocrity and then disappear as spirit sons. Instead of letting them disappear like this, it is better to find a way to transform them. If ordinary souls can have powerful power through transformation, perhaps these souls of Rakangai can be used to destroy the entire Hueco Mundo. Zanpakuto of Kenpachi, the Mole City, made him see the possibility of this. However, the idea was good, but in practice it still ended in failure. Leave here. Mole City Kenpachi is going to find some souls for experiments again. However, just when he found a few souls and was about to conduct his own experiments, he sensed a wave of Ryatsu. Mole City Kenpachi turned his head and looked at the visitor with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Gosuke, it's you. How did you come? He greeted Gosuke Shigure in a calm tone without the slightest panic. Gosuke Shigure's expression was also extremely calm. He asked Kenpachi, the Mole City, does the captain want to use these souls for experiments? The disappearance of Rakangai's soul. You did it. When Mole City Kenpachi heard this, his expression was slightly calm. But soon, facing the question from his vice captain, he didn't hide anything. That's right, I did it. It was discovered by you. Gosuke, you are really amazing. Mole City Kenpachi also did not ask how Gosuke found out about this, because it doesn't make any sense. Some things, just do it. You don't need to explore the process at all. Importantly, he did it, and Gosuke Shigure found out the truth. Gosuke Shigure's expression was calm, because in his heart he already had the answer. But having said that, sometimes there are still questions that should be asked. Why? He asked the Mole City Kenpachi like this. Remember that question I asked you that night? Mole City Kenpachi looked at Gosuke Shigure and said calmly. I was also afraid that Gosuke Shigure would not remember that question. So he said again, that night, I asked you what you think of Hueco Mundo and nobles. You said the existence of Hueco Mundo and Soul Society are mutually balanced. You are right, there is indeed a balance between Hueco Mundo and Soul Society, and the existence of Shinigami is also to maintain this balance. However, compared to the constantly growing voids that can devour everything, the power of Shinigami is, after all, there is a limit. In particular, the existence of nobles itself further weakens the power of the Shinigami, so they don't care about the so-called balance. In their view, the so-called Shinigami are just serving them. It's true that there are heroes like Takayashiki in this world. He is so powerful that he can stand against 1,000. However, even someone as strong as Takayashiki will eventually die. Chapter 12 Confrontation. Never before has Kenpachi Mole City spoken more. He seems to have said everything he has said in the past year since he took over as captain. It is obvious that Yoshiki died in his hands. But according to what he said, even if he didn't take action, Tsune Yoshiki would die sooner or later. The expansion of Hueco Mundo seriously threatens the Soul Society, the existence of nobles, and holds most of the interests of the Soul Society, further squeezing the living space of Shinigami. And the common people of Rakangai lead a precarious life. In such a situation, the probability of Shinigami being born among them will only get lower and lower. I don't know if you have counted how many Shinigami have died in battle over the years, and how many new Shinigami have been born. I used to count this when I had nothing to do. Finally, a conclusion was reached. If things go on like this, the balance will be broken sooner or later. The disorderly expansion of Hueco Mundo, the infinite growth of void, will sooner or later devour the Soul Society. At that time, the power of Shinigami alone will not be able to deal with Hueco Mundo. This world will usher in destruction sooner or later. There is a hint of madness in Kenpachi's words, which is extremely rare for a person like Kenpachi in Mole City. You know, no matter what the occasion was in the past, he always looked calm and peaceful. But at this moment, when talking about these things, he finally showed a trace of real emotion. So, what does this have to do with what you're doing? Gosuke Shigure looked at Kenpachi, the Mole City, and asked calmly. Mole City Kenpachi said, when human beings die in this world, their souls will either fall into Hueco Mundo or enter the Soul Society and fall into the soul of Hueco Mundo. They will either become voids or be swallowed by voids and become the nourishment of other voids and strengthen them. The power of the soul and the soul that fell into the soul of the Soul Society and became a Shinigami is very few. I said, the balance will be broken sooner or later. Although this world is so ugly, since I exist in this world and have power, I have an obligation to make this world a better place. Instead of letting these souls who fell into the Soul Society live a life of mediocrity, it is better to make the best use of them, transform them, give them strength, and let them crusade against Hueco Mundo. Having said that, the purpose of Kenpachi Mole City has been revealed. After talking about his purpose, Kenpachi's eyes fell on Gosuke Shigure again. Gosuke, I can see that you are a very talented person. I don't know. Would you like to stand on my side? Help me? Gosuke Shigure was silent for a long time and gave Kenpachi the answer, sorry. Although it is only 2 words, Kenpachi already has the answer in his heart. That's it. There was a hint of regret in his words, and then the regret disappeared, and his eyes became extremely indifferent. The next moment, the figure of Mole City Kenpachi suddenly moved. With a flash of Shuinpa, he has already come to the back of Gosuke Shigure. At the same time, he sticks out his palm, and the indifferent words come out of his mouth. 33 of had blue fire pendant. The moment the words came out, a huge group of explosive flames swept out, intending to engulf Gosuke Shigure's body. Although it is the kid after abandoning the chant, Kenpachi of Mole City has a strong attainment above kid. Over the years, when the 11th team received the mission of the Minos Grande invasion and went to help most of the Kenpachi of Mole City, they all relied on the powerful kid to kill Minos Grande, which shows the strength of his kid. Unfortunately, his attack was unsuccessful after all. Gosuke Shigure felt a strong killing intent after saying the 3 words of Kenpachi in Mole City. And then, when the blue fire pendant fell on him, he also launched Shuinpa to avoid it. In an instant, Shuinpa performed, and the 2 people changed places. By the time Gosuke Shigure turned around, he and Kenpachi had swapped positions left and right. The captain is planning to kill me? Gosuke Shigure looked at Kenpachi, the Mole City, and opened his mouth lightly. Mole City Kenpachi said in a deep voice, Gosuke, I'm sorry. Since you discovered my secret, I can only kill you. Gosuke Shigure said, I don't know if the captain has thought about a problem. What you do is not hidden. Sooner or later, people will find out. At that time, you will be able to kill everyone who knows what you are planning. Is it clean? Mole City Kenpachi is silent. Instead of answering Gosuke Shigure's question, he chose to continue shooting at Gosuke Shigure. Since he decided to kill Gosuke Shigure here, he naturally wouldn't hesitate because of Gosuke Shigure's words. Maybe what I did will be discovered sooner or later. But Mole City Kenpachi firmly believes that by that time, he has accomplished what he wants to do. Rain du Julio. He spoke again and said a strange name. After the name came out, Gosuke Shigure suddenly felt a surge of Ryatsu. And then, beside Kenpachi, the Mole City, there seemed to be an extra figure, which was hidden in the invisible, and then a knife quietly emerged from midair, held in the hands of Mole City Kenpachi. This knife looks similar to an ordinary sealed state, but there is a high concentration of Ryatsu on its blade. In other words, this knife, if you cut it casually, it will be extremely terrifying. Should I be honored to be worth your Zampakuto? Gosuke Shigure looked at Kenpachi, the Mole City, and spoke again. Since he succeeded the captain of the 11th team, the 8th generation Kenpachi, Mole City Kenpachi has never used Zampakuto and has never carried Zampakuto with him. But in a chat between Gosuke Shigure and Kayaraka Shunsui, a guess was given. Although I haven't seen the knife, it must be there. Because in the battle with Kenpachi, Mole City Kenpachi used Zampakuto. In other words, Zampakuto had always been with him, but he had hidden it in some special way. Now it seems that is indeed the case. Holding a sealed state General Zampakuto, Mole City Kenpachi did not answer Gosuke Shigure's question. He faced Gosuke Shigure, and he just slashed out. A powerful sword pressure swept out. Gosuke Shigure evaded to the side. A deep crack suddenly appeared in the barren land, and dust flew everywhere. Fortunately, this is the Zaraki district of Rakangai 80 district, which is extremely barren and sparsely populated. This gave the Mole City Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure a place to fight wantonly. As for the souls that Kenpachi was planning to attack earlier, after Gosuke Shigure appeared and confronted Kenpachi, They were already scared and fled in panic. Although in this Zaraki area, these souls are well-deserved bullies, and they have always oppressed other souls. But even with bullies, it depends on who you compare with. Compared with Shinigami, Shinigami is the real bully. Chapter 13, Captain Level Battle. Mole City Kenpachi's offensive continues. After Gosuke Shigure easily dodged the first cut, he cut it out again. The high concentration of Ryatsu condensed on the Zanpakuto blade in his hand, and then released a powerful sword pressure. This is not a skill attached to Zanpakuto, but a simple frontal slash. But as long as Ryatsu is strong enough, even an ordinary slash can also unleash a more powerful kid attack. So a certain sentence of Aizen in the original book is not wrong. The Battle of Shinigami is the Battle of Ryatsu. If you look into it, there may be some problems, but this sentence definitely applies to most situations. Like now, Gosuke Shigure faced the ensuing slashing attacks from Mole City Kenpachi, while using Shuinpa to dodge. On the other hand, he also pulled out his own Zanpakuto. Shurikai is not performed. Instead, keep Zanpakuto in the sealed state, that is, to slash out with a single knife, and the white sword pressure flies away. Meet the sword pressure of the Mole City Kenpachi. Boom! Two powerful sword pressures collided, and smoke and dust swept all around. The spiritual particles that were originally permeating the air and tending to a stable state were immediately destroyed, and then triggered a powerful storm of spiritual particles. The other end of the Zaraki district, holding a tattered sealed state with many gaps, a tall figure who was hacking the enemy to death in front of him sensed the terrifying spirit storm, and immediately glanced curiously. He had a hunch that there seemed to be an extremely powerful person on the other side. Maybe it could be a good opponent. Ever since, he resolutely gave up on the opponent in front of him who had already been cut to a state of residual blood, and headed towards the direction where the storm of spiritual particles spread, preparing to have a hearty fight with him. Suriidii Institute. This is a research institution under the command of the 12th Division. Although the Soul Society is old and backward in some systems, but apart from the system, there are also advanced places in some places, such as the Suriidii Research Institute, which represents the technical strength of Suriidii. Over the years, they did not know that they have developed how many useful equipment and tools. In the future, after Urahara Kasuke took office as the captain of the 12th Division, this place was integrated and transformed, and then renamed the Technology Development Bureau. Normally, the task of the Suriidii Research Institute is not only to study various new technologies related to the soul, but also to detect the spiritual waves of the entire Soul Society. Soul Society is the world of spirits, and everything in it is made of spirits. Since it is a spirit sun, it will naturally produce fluctuations. Ryatsu is a powerful wave. Whenever Minos Grande comes to the Soul Society, whether it is the opening of the black cavity or the Ryatsu released by itself, there will be huge fluctuations, which will be accurately grasped by the equipment arranged by the Technology Research Institute throughout the Soul Society, so that Suriidii will be the first time sent the Shinigami to kill the invading Khan. At this moment, the Suriidii Research Institute has detected two more powerful Ryatsu. These two strands of Ryatsu, Vice Captain, Captain, it's almost at the captain's level. Is there a captain fighting in Rakangai? Where exactly is it? In the Zaraki district, in the Research Institute, many researchers began to whisper after monitoring the two powerful Ryatsu colliding. In the end, it was the director of the institute who made the decision. Report this matter to the first team immediately. Yes, researchers dare not slack off in the slightest. Soon, the Hell Butterfly was summoned. Through the Hell Butterfly message, this matter was immediately reported to the first team, and then Shinigami, who integrated the affairs of the various teams, learned about it, and did not dare to neglect, and quickly reported the matter to the captain. Captain-level Shinigami fighting in Rakangai generated a strong Ryatsu wave. One side is the Mole City Kenpachi, and the other side is unknown. After knowing the reason of the incident, the head Captain Yamamoto, Jinrasai, raised his pale brows slightly. He didn't know what he was thinking about, but soon he made a decision. Although I don't know who Kenpachi is fighting against, but from the Ryatsu fluctuations monitored by the Suriidii Institute, there is no doubt that the other person is Shinigami without a doubt. Among the Suriidii, There is a rule that it is strictly forbidden to kill fellow Shinigami. As for the fact that Kenpachi of Mole City killed Kenpachi of Takayashiki, that was a special case because of the unique succession rules of Kenpachi of the 11th team, so it was not counted as a violation of Kenpachi of Mole City. Of course, another reason that prompted the captain to decide to get involved in this matter was that he had a feeling. This sudden captain-level battle may be related to the recent disappearance of Rakangai's soul. Is Mole City Kenpachi found the murderer? Just when the captain thought so, Kairaka Shunsui came to the first team. Old man Shan, stepping into the chief's office. Looking at the chief sitting behind the desk, Kairaka Shunsui spoke with a hint of haste. Say, the captain is succinct. I have some clues about the disappearance of Rakangai's soul, but I don't know whether to say it or not. After Kairaka Shunsui finished speaking, Captain Yamamoto's sharp eyes immediately fell on Kairaka Shunsui. Kairaka Shunsui immediately understood what Old Man Shan meant, so he didn't hide anything and said it directly. This matter is suspected to be related to the Mole City Kenpachi. Hearing this name, Commander Yamamoto's eyes suddenly became sharp. Immediately afterwards, without saying a word, he gave Kairaka Shunsui a task. The old man wants you to rush to the Zaraki district immediately. Kenpachi Mole City is fighting there right now. Go back to the Zaraki area. On the wilderness, Gosuke Shigure is still colliding with the Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi is very strong. After taking out Zanpakuto, each of his slashes contains extremely powerful power. The terrifying sword pressure is enough to cut everything in front of him. Although it was a coincidence that he killed Kenpachi at the beginning, even if it was a coincidence, it is enough to show that his strength is at least at the same level as Kenpachi. You must know that Kenpachi can easily kill Vasto, Lord the mighty Shinigami of Minos Grande. But what really surprised Kenpachi in Mole City was the strength of Gosuke Shigure. As a vice-captain, Gosuke Shigure naturally cannot be weak. Gosuke Shigure easily killed 6 Jillians that day, which also illustrates this point. But even so, Kenpachi decided to kill Gosuke Shigure after realizing that Gosuke Shigure had discovered his plan. However, after fighting against Gosuke Shigure, he found that Gosuke Shigure's strength was far more than that, and it seemed a bit difficult to kill him. Chapter 14, Let's Destroy. Thunder Tribulation. Gosuke, I really underestimated you. Mole City Kenpachi held Zanpakuto, looked at Gosuke Shigure who was fighting against him, and expressed such emotion. I thought killing Gosuke would be an easy task. As it turned out, Gosuke Shigure was more difficult than expected. The next moment, Kenpachi raised his empty left hand and began to chant, O King of Kings, the mask of flesh and blood, the Vientian, the thing that flies high and bears the name of human beings. Burning heat and chaos. Separation, the sea reverses and rolls southward. Step forward. This is the chant of Had's 31 red cannon. However, the moment this chant came out, another new chant suddenly sounded. Impressively, beast bones scattered everywhere. Spires, red crystals, and steel wheels. What moves is the wind. What is still is the sky. The sound of spears striking each other resounds through the empty city. When Kenpachi in Mole City chanted the chant of the red cannon, he actually chanted the chant of fiery lightning howl in another way. That's nothing. Apart from these 2 chants, several more chants sounded one after another. Carve the double lotus on the wall of the blue fire, and wait for the abyss of fire in the distant sky. The steeple, the red crystal, the steel wheel. What moves is the wind. What is still is the sky. The sound of spears striking each other resounds through the void city. The mask of flesh and blood, Vientian, flapping its wings, and what bears the name of human beings, scorching heat and strife. Across the sea to the south, step forward. Countless chant sounds sounded, and many of them overlapped. This made the originally barren wilderness here extremely noisy. The voices of Kenpachi Mole City are overlapping and weird. Gosuke Shigure was a little surprised when he saw Kenpachi raised his hand and was about to use Kid to fight against the enemy. At this moment, after realizing the weirdness here, he didn't know that Kenpachi's Kid attainments were stronger than he imagined. Of course, There is no lack of Mole City Kenpachi has adopted other means to increase Kid. Just like at this moment, mouse appeared in the surrounding sand, stones, and other things, from which the voices belonging to the Mole City Kenpachi came out, which is why there are so many chant voices overlapping. The ability of Zampakit? Gosuke Shigure thought so, but he didn't give Mole City Kenpachi a chance to finish his chant. When the chant of Kenpachi in Mole City was about to be finished, he suddenly moved, holding Zampakit, and instantly came to Kenpachi in Mole City with Shuinpa and slashed out from bottom to top. This knife brought out an extremely powerful sword pressure. Mole City Sword Lori remains unchanged. It is true that Gosuke Shigure's response was very clever, but Gosuke Shigure ultimately underestimated one thing. That is his Zampakit ability. After Yulu Toalyo Bankai, you can fuse your own spirit seeds with the spirit seeds contained in other living or non-living things, and then you can manipulate them at will. Mole City Kenpachi, after integrating his own spirit into the spirit of inorganic matter, he can freely control the matter to attack or restrain the enemy, like using his hands and feet. Once integrated with a certain space, you can monitor, perceive, and control everything in it, and you can create avatars to appear in any corner of the space at will. The larger the range to be fused, the more time it takes. Integrate its own spirit into the spirit of other creatures, and control the fused part. But it cannot directly damage the enemy whose body surface Ryatsu is too high. The stronger the Ryatsu released by the fused person, the stronger the rejection reaction to Mole City, and the shorter the biofusion lasts. Although the time to manipulate a creature with strong spiritual power will not be too long, sometimes only a moment is enough. On that day, he used Yuro Takumi Bankai's ability to buy himself a moment before killing Kenpachi. Right now, he is going to use Yulu Toalyo again to buy himself a moment of time. Then, the next moment, the body of Gosuke Shigure, who was cutting towards Kenpachi with a knife, froze suddenly. Gosuke Shigure only feels that half of his body doesn't belong to him anymore. In it, there is a brand new will, a completely different Ryatsu. This Ryatsu belongs to Mole City Kenpachi. Gosuke, meet death. Mole Castle Kenpachi looked at Gosuke Shigure and spoke in a deep voice. While speaking, his body pulled back, and after that, the innumerable had condensed. This had fully chanted, without any weakening of its power. If it is just a single hit, even a captain-level Shinigami will be injured if he does not defend. Not to mention, so many had came together. Boom, boom, boom. Red Cannon, Fiery Lightning Howl, Shuanglian, Sanwa Pendant. Many powerful had fell on Gosuke Shigure's body at the same time, engulfing Gosuke Shigure's body. Although during this process, Kenpachi of Mole City integrated his spirit into Gosuke Shigure's body, and if he became a younger half of Gosuke Shigure was injured or died, he would also suffer a strong backlash. But after all, it was only half of his body. Such an injury was not enough to kill him. More importantly, Gosuke is a worthy opponent. As long as it kills Gosuke, it's worth it. Amid the roar of Had, a deep voice sounded. Destroy it. Thunder Tribulation. The electric light flickered and intersected with the electric light produced by Fiery Lightning Howl, so that Kenpachi, the Mole City, did not notice this scene at the first time. But soon, he realized what had happened. Because the spirit sun he invaded Gosuke Shigure's body suffered irreversible trauma, and in an instant, all of it was wiped away because of a certain force. This kind of backlash made him feel like he was in severe distress immediately, and the scarlet blood couldn't help but flow out of his mouth. But even so, the instinct of the body still prompted him to subconsciously wave the Zampakit in his hand. During the flashes of lightning, a long knife lingering with a blue arc slashed towards him, and was blocked by the Zampakit in his hand. The figure holding the long knife lingering around the arc long knife is Gosuke Shigure. He didn't die amidst the multiple kid chants of Kenpachi, the Mole City. At this moment, in addition to the blue arcs lingering on Zampakit, there are also blue arcs mobilizing on his body from time to time. This lightning power, in addition to giving Gosuke Shigure a strong defense, also gave him ultimate speed. This is the Zampakit of Gosuke Shigure's life. Zampakit of the Thunder Department, Thunder Calamity. This knife, judging from its attributes, should belong to the Kid family, but judging from its post-Shirkai ability, it can be regarded as a direct attack type, because its post-Shirkai ability is to increase status. Such a knife will not be of much use if it falls into the hands of someone who does not fight as a Grandmaster, because there is no Grandmaster fighter, no matter how sharp the knife is given him, no matter how fast he is, it will have no effect. But it is a well-deserved good knife in the hands of Gosuke Shigure, who once reached the peak on the Shinigami road and has experienced many battles. Chapter 15, The Defeated Mole City Kenpachi. Gosuke, you're really surprising me more and more. Mole City Kenpachi blocked Gosuke Shigure's knife with Zampakit. He didn't care about the blood still dripping from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Gosuke Shigure, and opened his mouth in surprise. Gosuke Shigure didn't take advantage of the victory either. In the final analysis, Kenpachi is his captain after all, and it has been quite a pleasure to get along with him for more than a year. He doesn't mind giving Mole City Kenpachi a decent way to lose. It's just a coincidence. Gosuke Shigure said to the Mole City Kenpachi, Captain, your Zampakit ability should be to inject your own spirit into all living and non-living things around you, and then manipulate them. Your multiple kid chants were achieved in this way. When I came to attack you with a knife, I could feel that there was a new will in my body, and it was affecting my body. This will belongs to you, Captain. Mole City Kenpachi was non-committal, but since he didn't refute this, it has already been shown that what Gosuke Shigure said is correct. At the same time, in the heart of Mole City Kenpachi, his evaluation of Gosuke Shigure is also a little higher. In such a short time, it was clearly the first time he used Zampakit in front of Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure guessed his Zampakit ability. It is indeed powerful. You know, his Zampakit has been in the state of Bankai since his awakening, and has never been released, which makes outsiders don't know his Zampakit's ability at all. How to observe the ability that has never been released? Keep Bankai's Zampakit, as weird as it sounds, but in fact, that is the case. To this day, even Kenpachi himself does not know the liberation language of Zampakit, let alone the name after Bankai, but he can use the ability of Zampakit. While speaking, a faint smile appeared on the corner of Gosuke Shigure's mouth. It's also fortunate that my Zampakit ability is still good otherwise. I almost died before. As for what Zampakit's abilities are, Gosuke Shigure doesn't say. Although Mole City Kenpachi was curious, he didn't ask too many questions. Just need to know that Gosuke Shigure is out of his hands and out of danger. On the contrary, he was extremely seriously injured by the backlash because the spirit seed injected into Gosuke Shigure's body was destroyed. Thinking of this, Mole City Kenpachi suddenly made up his mind. Gosuke, kill me. Mole City Kenpachi said this in a flat tone. He has no fear of death. When he was determined to do that, he had already thought about facing the entire Gosuke 13, and also thought about the end of his own death. It's just that I didn't expect that before what I did was discovered by Gosuke 13, I was given insight by my Vice Captain Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke's strength is beyond his expectation. The tyrannical ultimate chopping technique, the impressive Shuinpa, and the powerful Zampakit all surprised Kenpachi. Of course, he ended up like this because he didn't expect Gosuke Shigure's Zampakit's ability, so he suffered backlash and was seriously injured. But in such a situation, remorse no longer makes any sense. Rather than remorse, he wishes Gosuke Shigure would kill him. For this matter, make an understanding. Among the Seriidii, it is a serious crime to kill a fellow Shinigami without permission, but I am different. I am Kenpachi. The rule of being a Kenpachi is to kill the previous Kenpachi in battle. That's how I killed Tsukiyashiki in the beginning. Now, you just have to kill me, and you're the new Kenpachi. Mole Castle Kenpachi spoke to Gosuke Shigure calmly. Gosuke Shigure smiled lightly and did not answer Kenpachi's question. That's it. Mole City Kenpachi didn't know what to think of, and then swung Zampakit in his hand, and the powerful Ryatsu was compressed on Zampakit's blade, making each of his cuts carry a powerful sword pressure. Since Gosuke Shigure didn't give an answer, then I will do my last bit and try to kill Gosuke. Peiron's sword pressure exploded and turned into a terrifying slash. Gosuke Shigure remains in the Shirkai state. The thunder force lingering on his body stimulates his cells and muscles, giving him the ultimate speed. At this moment, his state and the original work are in a state of instant coaxing. Shihoin Yoruichi is somewhat similar. With the kid surrounding its body, it endows itself with powerful mobility. However, Gosuke Shigure's mobility was not given by Kid, but by Zanpakuto. With ultimate speed, he easily dodged Kenpachi's slash, then return it with color. Zanpakuto, who was also lingering with the slightest arc, swung out, and the sword pressure shattered the sword pressure of Mole City Kenpachi, and then, with a slash, passed over Mole City Kenpachi's body. The captain's white feathered weave and the Black Death suit inside were torn at the same time, and scarlet blood spurted out. Mole City Kenpachi's body fell to the ground, completely giving up the fight. I lost. Lying on the barren hill, feeling the weakness and pain in his body, Kenpachi looked at the sky. There was no cloud in the sky, and the scorching sun was mercilessly burning the earth. Although it is under the same sky, the sun in the 80th district of Rukongai seems to be much hotter than other areas. Unfortunately, even such a scorching sun did not bring any warmth to the Mole City of Kenpachi. He just felt cold all over his body. In addition to the cold caused by the loss of blood and vitality due to serious injuries. What's more, at the moment of defeat, he thought of one thing. Then I felt a will. Even if I hadn't been defeated by Gosuke Shigure today, I probably wouldn't succeed in what I wanted to do. Because a certain supreme being does not allow himself to do such a thing. Spirit King, Mole City Kenpachi muttered to himself, uttering an epithet that, for many of the Soul Society's Shinigami, was a noble title. But in his words, he didn't have much respect for the Spirit King. Then the Mole City Kenpachi lay in the wilderness. Unexpectedly, Gosuke Shigure didn't deal him a fatal blow, but kept watch over him with a knife. Mole City Kenpachi doesn't understand what Gosuke Shigure is going to do, but Gosuke Shigure is the winner after all and has the privilege to do anything. After waiting for a while, Gosuke Shigure's voice sounded, "It's finally here." A figure wearing 2 fancy hairpins, wearing a pink feather jacket embroidered with patterns, and a bamboo hat quickly came here. Chapter 16, I Surrender Myself. Oh, this result is really unexpected. The visitors came here and were very surprised after seeing Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure, especially the tragic situation in Kenpachi. Although I knew from the old man Sean that Kenpachi of Mole City was fighting against someone here. Judging from the monitoring results of the spiritual fluctuations, the opponent was also a captain-level Shinigami. However, realizing that the other person is Gosuke Shigure is enough to take the comers by surprise. He didn't expect that Gosuke, who used to drink together and seemed extremely honest, would have such strength. And the second thing that surprised him was that the loser was Kenpachi, the Mole City. Mole City Kenpachi, although he has not been a Kenpachi for a long time, only more than a year, but from the fact that he can serve as Kenpachi, it is enough to show his strength. Kenpachi is the name given to the strongest Shinigami by the Soul Society, although this strongest is still open to question. After all, Godai 13 still has such a powerful Shinigami as the captain, but what is certain is that none of those who can become Kenpachi are strong. Even among the many captains of Godai 13, it is also among the best. The strength of the predecessor Kenpachi is obvious to all. Even the top Minos Grande Vasto Lord in Hueco Mundo, he can easily kill alone. Mole Castle Kenpachi can kill. Naturally, it is the Shinigami who is stronger than. In the same way, Siriidii also gave privileges to powerful Shinigami, such as the case with the Kenpachi name. For example, during the captain meeting, the owner of Kenpachi can choose not to participate. After all, the existence of Kenpachi itself is a deterrent, a powerful weapon, and Kenpachi's duty is to fight. But now, the bearer of the Kenpachi name lost. Lost to Gosuke Shigure. How can this not make the visitors shocked and surprised? As the person who personally defeated Kenpachi, Gosuke Shigure did not feel complacent at all. He looked at the man who came here and greeted him calmly. "King Band Leader, you are here." "Gosuke, who are you?" Kairaka Shunsui asked curiously as he glanced at Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure. Although according to the information investigated by the 8th Division, the recent disappearance of Rokongai's soul is suspected to have something to do with Kenpachi, the Mole City. But this is just some speculation. Because Shinigami saw the Mole City Kenpachi frequently went to Rukongai recently. and his whereabouts were strange. And the place where he went didn't take long before his soul disappeared. This gave Kayaraka Shunsui some guesswork. But guesses are guesses after all, and no real evidence has been obtained after all. Before he is fully convicted, Mole City Kenpachi is still the captain of the 11th team, and he cannot be treated with any disrespect. Mole City Kenpachi didn't answer Kayaraka Shuinsue's question, but Gosuke Shigure did. As the Beijing band leader saw, the captain and I had a fight here. As for the reason for the fight, his tone froze, and he didn't answer directly, but looked at Kenpachi, the Mole City. Kayaraka Shunsui noticed the unusual meaning, and also looked at the Mole City Kenpachi. Mole City Kenpachi sensed the double gaze of Gosuke Shigure and Kayaraka Shunsui, and a quirky smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. While Gosuke Shigure was waiting for Kayaraka Shunsui to come, he suddenly changed his mind and suddenly didn't want to die. It would be a pity if he died like this. Facing Kayaraka Shuinsue's gaze, Mole City Kenpachi suddenly said, "I want to see Central 46. Kayaraka Shunsui frowned. Central 46 is the highest judicial body of the Soul Society. Shinigami will be judged by Central 46 for their crimes in the Soul Society or in this world. Mole City Kenpachi offered to meet Central 46. In this sentence, Kayaraka Shunsui heard some unusual meanings. Combined with the previous guess, Kayaraka Shunsui felt that he was getting closer to the truth. Kayaraka Shunsui and Gosuke Shigure returned to the Siriidii with the badly wounded Mole City Kenpachi. They first went to the 4th team. Captain Unohana Retsu personally took action to help Kenpachi of Mole City deal with some injuries. During this process, Unohana Retsu's expression seemed calm, without the slightest fluctuation, as if he was healing an ordinary patient. Gosuke Shigure, as the vice-captain of the 11th team, watched Unohana Retsu use Kade to heal the wounds of Mole City Kenpachi the whole time. During this process, it is inevitable that there will be some emotions. Except for some Shinigami who have lived longer, no one would have thought that this seemingly merciful and compassionate captain of the 4th Division, Unohana Retsu, would have been a murderous evil spirit in the past, and would be first-generation Kenpachi. Captain Unohana, please excuse me. After watching Unohana Retsu deal with Kenpachi's injury and make sure that the other party will not die, Kayaraka Shunsui, who also came here, said gratefully. Unohana Retsu said calmly, "It's nothing. This is the responsibility of my 4th team." But having said that, I'm still a little curious. Who was Captain Mole City fighting with and suffered such a serious injury? The captain of Mole City is Kenpachi. Among the Soul Society, there are only a handful of existences that can inflict such injuries on him. Or is Hueco Mundo invaded by Minos Grande again? Unohana Retsu narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Kayaraka Shunsui curiously. Kayaraka Shunsui frowned. Thinking of what Kenpachi said earlier, he said to Unohana Retsu in a deep voice, "Sorry, Captain Unohana, I can't tell you about this for now." A hint of surprise flashed in Unohana Retsu's eyes, and she didn't mean to get to the bottom of it. "I see." Then, Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th squad alone. Kayaraka Shunsui took Kenpachi, the Mole City, and went to the team first. He didn't know what he said to the captain, but the captain looked very serious. Afterwards, the Mole City Kenpachi was brought into Central 46. Central 46 is the highest judicial institution of the Soul Society, composed of 40 sages and 6 judges. Its interior is extremely dark. 46 of the Soul Society's most powerful men sit high on the steps, hidden in the darkness. The judge stood at the lowest point in the center and was forced to accept the scrutiny of these people. After Mole City Kenpachi came here, the eyes of the 46 people immediately fell on him. "Shuangye Maching, why do you want to see us?" Indifferent words came from the mouth of a judge. Mole City Kenpachi had a weird smile on his mouth. "I'm from here." Chapter 17 Interrogation. Gosuke Shigure returns to the 11th squad. He did not tell many members of the 11th team what happened to Kenpachi, the Mole City. Many team members don't know that Kenpachi, the current Mole City, has gone to Central 46 to surrender to his crimes. Gosuke Shigure took care of team affairs as vice-captain. Not long after, an old acquaintance came to the 11th team. The person who arrived was Kayaraka Shunsui. "You are calmer than I imagined. Although I don't know what Kenpachi of Mole City has done, Judging from his voluntary request to see Central 46 and Old Man Shan's dignified expression, it is obviously not unusual. You, as the only person who was with Maching at that time and fought with him, there is also a deep suspicion on you. As expected, Central 46 will see you after seeing Maching. Or have you ever thought about it? While handling team affairs, Gosuke Shigure said, "Since some things have already happened, we can only accept their existence. Compared with pure worry and tension, I believe that the clearer will clear up. The matter of Mole City has nothing to do with me." Gosuke Shigure said this with an extremely serious tone. Kairaka Shunsui was also a little surprised when he heard Gosuke Shigure's words. Central 46, as the highest judicial body of the Soul Society, its members are all composed of nobles. Nobles, what kind of people are they? Kairaka Shunsui, the head of a high-ranking nobleman, couldn't be more clear. It is really difficult to say justice for an organization composed of such a group of people. Of course, in this case, you can't say it face to face. At least on the bright side, Central 46 represents absolute justice. I also hope that the matter in Mole City has nothing to do with you, Kairaka Shunsui said to Gosuke Shigure in a concerned tone, and then said, "For some reason, the people in Central 46 are very old-fashioned. I hope they will find you later when talking. You don't get offended by the tone of their voice. If what you said is true, the matter in Mole City has nothing to do with you. I will do my best to help you get rid of the suspicion." Thanks. Gosuke Shigure expressed his sincere thanks to Kairaka Shunsui. Gosuke Shigure's easy life didn't last long. It didn't take long before a group of Shinigami who looked like ninjas in black clothes and masks came before Gosuke Shigure. It's the Criminal Army, a unit in the Soul Society that is responsible for detaining and arresting criminals. Deputy Captain of the 11th Division, Gosuke Shigure, Central 46 summons. The Criminal Army came and conveyed the order of Central 46. I see. Gosuke Shigure nodded, stood up, and followed Shingjun. On the way, the soldiers of the Shingjun confiscated Gosuke Shigure's Zampiket. At the same time, they put special locks on Gosuke Shigure. The material of the locks is very special, and it confines Gosuke Shigure's spiritual power. That's nothing. The men of the Shingjun cast multiple Bakud on Gosuke Shigure again, all to limit Gosuke Shigure's power. After all, Gosuke Shigure is about to meet people from Central 46. For the safety of those people, all measures must be taken. For this matter, Gosuke Shigure did not resist. Soon, Gosuke Shigure came to the door of Central 46. The towering gate separates Central 46 from the outside world. Although there are not too many decorations, it naturally gives people a sense of majesty. This is the highest authority of the Soul Society. If Gosuke 13 holds the power of the Soul Society, then Central 46 holds something even stronger than power. That is power. Gosuke Shigure came here under the leadership of Shingjun, and he couldn't help but look up. In the previous life, Gosuke 13 was never established, and Siriidii and Rukongai were never separated. In that era, nobles and commoners lived together. Although the nobles also had a lot of power, the commoners might not have the opportunity to surpass the nobles, let alone Central 46. Times, there is no such thing at all. But this is not the case today. Central 46 is high above, and most civilians can only live in Rukongai. And only by becoming Shinigami can they enter Siriidii. This shows that in the invisible struggle that year, the nobles finally won. And the Shinigami who were born as civilians, such as Yamamoto Genrisai, finally made a compromise. I don't know how I will be judged. Even at this time, Gosuke Shigure didn't show any signs of panic. He looked very calm. The door of Central 46 slowly opened. Under the leadership of Shingjun, Gosuke Shigure stepped into it. The environment inside is extremely dark. When entering inside, Gosuke Shigure felt a sense of oppression again. Obviously, Central 46 has a powerful barrier inside, which greatly limits the strength of the Shinigami who stepped into it. Soon, they came to the place where they were interrogated. A small platform in the middle of Central 46. Speaking of the platform, in fact, this is the lowest point of the Central 46 hall. Around it, there are layers of towering steps. On the steps, there are figures sitting one after another. They hide themselves in the darkness. If you look carefully, you can only see their cold eyes. Maybe these people do not have great power, but they do have comparative strength. Something more powerful. Gosuke Shigure. In different words came from one of them. Exist. Gosuke Shigure replied calmly. Earlier, there was an incident of Rakangai's soul disappearing. Godiai, 13, conducted a detailed investigation on this incident. Earlier today, Mo Qingshuang, the captain of the 11th team, also came forward and admitted that this incident was caused by him. Because the nature of this matter is far worse than imagined. Before Mo Qingshuang also surrendered, you were the last person to come into contact with him. So I summon you here for interrogation. Are you also involved in the double mole incident? When this remark came out, Gosuke Shigure immediately felt 46 pairs of eyes on him. No, there's more than Central 46 here. In the dark, there is also an extremely elite army hidden. After all, the identities of these people in Central 46 are extraordinary. If no one is sent to protect them, what will happen in case of an accident? Gosuke Shigure said calmly. No, you are lying. After Gosuke Shigure's words sounded, another so-called sage immediately questioned him. As the vice captain of the 11th team, as far as we know, Mo Qingshuang trusted you very much when he was the captain of the 11th team and entrusted all team affairs to you. Before he turned himself in, you were the only one who had contact with him, and you appeared with him in Zaraki District, 80 District, North Rakangai. Therefore, we believe that you must know what Mo Shuang also did. I'll ask you again, are you involved? And different words came out. Gosuke Shigure suddenly understood why Kairaka Shunsui gave himself such a reminder before, so as not to be angry. Chapter 18. The Palace of Repentance Central 46 is a bunch of stubborn people. They admit death. Obviously, there is no evidence, but they believe that Gosuke Shigure is Mo Shuangya's accomplice and a guilty person. In a short period of time, the 46 people of Central 46 successively questioned Gosuke Shigure. Their words are sharp and fierce, and they are not nice words. In front of Gosuke Shigure, they showed a strong sense of presence. Maybe it's because they didn't have any sense of presence in front of Kenpachi in Mole City before, which made them look like this. Mole City Kenpachi is too honest. Not only did he take the initiative to surrender himself, but he also told everything he had done, whether Central 46 believes it or not. All in all, they appear to have no sense of existence in front of Kenpachi, the Mole City. Especially before Kenpachi Mole City turned himself in, they didn't even know that Kenpachi Mole City did those things. After realizing that Gosuke Shigure is also suspected of committing a felony, of course they have to interrogate them severely to demonstrate their authority, so that the world can understand what is called a sage and what is called justice. However, Gosuke Shigure's mentality is surprisingly good. No matter what Central 46 interrogates him, he vehemently denied that he had not participated in what was planned by Kenpachi, the Mole City, even as to why he was the one who was with Kenpachi in Mole City in the end. Gosuke Shigure also gave an answer. The answer is that he discovered the strange whereabouts of Kenpachi in Mole City recently, and Kairaka Shunsui told him about the disappearance of Rakangai's soul, so he recently paid attention to it. He realized that there was something wrong with Kenpachi, the Mole City, so he tracked down Kenpachi, the Mole City. Finally found out that Mole City Kenpachi was attacking the soul of Rakangai. Mole City Kenpachi found his trail and was about to kill him, but he had no choice but to fight back and fought a battle with Mole City Kenpachi. All in all, in Gosuke Shigure's phrasing, he's not a sinner, but a hero. Central 46 is certainly unwilling to accept such rhetoric, because they all identified Gosuke Shigure as a sinner. If you choose to believe Gosuke Shigure, wouldn't you be questioning authority? So, they continued to cross-examine. However, the interrogation methods that have always been unfavorable in the past are of no use in front of Gosuke Shigure. More importantly, they can't torture Gosuke Shigure casually. After all, although Gosuke Shigure is highly suspected, he has not been convicted and there is no evidence to prove that he committed a crime. Finally, after the fruitless interrogation, the 46 noble gentlemen of Central 46 seemed to be tired too. They decided to imprison Gosuke Shigure in the Penance Palace first, then choose another day for retrial. In this way, Gosuke Shigure was imprisoned in the Palace of Repentance and enjoyed the same treatment as Rukia Kachiki in the original book. The environment in the Confession Palace is not good, especially after it is covered with murderous stones which can suppress spiritual energy. It only feels more uncomfortable to stay inside. It should be noted that the concentration of spirit particles inside the Siriidii is extremely dense, and those without spiritual power living in it are like living in a pressure cooker, feeling extremely depressed, and the high concentration of spirit particles will constantly oppress the spirit and body. In the original book, Byakuya Kachiki's wife, Hima, died every few years after marrying Byakuya because she couldn't bear the internal environment of Siriidii. Shinigami can easily withstand such an environment because of the strong spiritual power in his body. However, when the spiritual power in Shinigami's body is suppressed by things first, and then they are in the environment of murderous stone, they will have the same feeling as whole. Gosuke Shigure had a similar feeling at this moment. What a subtle feeling. Even Gosuke Shigure never imagined that one day he would be able to experience the life of a prisoner. Zanpakuto was taken away and spiritual power was suppressed. It seemed that he was in an unprecedented desperate situation. But Gosuke Shigure knows that the so-called desperate situation has not yet been reached. Things are turning around. He is also waiting for the so-called turning point to appear. Of course, if this turning point can't happen, then he has no choice but to get out of the turmoil in his own way after being involved in the turmoil. In this world, there is not only Soul Society, but also Hueco Mundo and the present world. Even if the spiritual power is temporarily banned, even if Zanpakuto is confiscated. But after all, he lived for such a long time in his previous life. Even if he died because of waves in the end, he still had some trump cards after all. In this life, the reason why I put myself in the rules is just to live a peaceful life. If it is really impossible to live a peaceful life, Gosuke Shigure didn't mind making a move and took the initiative to break the calm. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed since Gosuke Shigure was imprisoned in the Palace of Repentance. In the past half a month, no one came to visit him. After all, he is not Rukia Kachiki. Although Rukia Kachiki was imprisoned in the Palace of Repentance, she was a member of the Kachiki family anyway. As the head of the four nobles, the Kachiki family should enjoy some privileges, so Byakuya Kachiki and her like can visit her from time to time. Of course, it is also for this reason that so many people were stunned after Rukia Kachiki was sentenced to Skyaku in the original book, because it is unreasonable. That's why some people want to explore the truth of Central 40 SIX's judgment, and then discover the fact that they have been slaughtered long ago. Back to business. For half a month, although no one came to visit him, Gosuke Shigure didn't feel bored. He just sat quietly in the Confession Palace every day. Central 46 did not hold Gosuke Shigure for a second trial. According to Gosuke Shigure's guess, during this time, Central 46 should be collecting evidence of what Mole Shuang also did. The fact is also as expected by Gosuke Shigure. Godei 13 is very busy during this time. The matter of Kenpachi surrendered in Mole City was also learned by the entire Godei 13 after the captain held a captain meeting. The crime he committed was not simply causing Rukongai's soul to disappear. It is a felony with an even worse nature. It intends to break the balance of souls between Soul Society and Hueco Mundo. When this matter was known by the many Shinigami of the 11th team, the many Shinigami of the 11th team were undoubtedly extremely uncomfortable. For more than a year, they have finally accepted the existence of the Mole City Kenpachi. In the end, it turned out that Kenpachi Mole City was not the successor of Kenpachi who was going to kill the house, but his sinner. In such a situation, Gosuke Shigure, who was implicated in the Mole City Kenpachi and imprisoned in the Palace of Repentance, naturally no one cared. Of course, saying no one cares doesn't mean no one remembers Gosuke Shigure. Chapter 19. Out of prison, the Palace of Confession is a white building. Among the white towers, Gosuke Shigure sits cross-legged. Suddenly, the sound of dull footsteps sounded, which was particularly ear-piercing in this quiet Palace of Confession. He couldn't help raising his eyes and looked over. The first thing that catches the eyes is a touch of bright color. It's really rare. I thought that everyone had forgotten me and treated me as a real sinner. I didn't expect that someone would come to see me." Looking at the visitor, Gosuke Shigure expressed his heartfelt emotion. The corner of the visitor's mouth was slightly raised, outlining a faint smile. "How could it be? During this period of time, I have been running around for Gosuke's affairs." "Really? Isn't it collecting information and clues related to the Mole City Kenpachi?" Gosuke Shigure revealed the truth of the words of the Comer. The visitor did not deny it. "Gosuke, you are right. Recently, I have indeed been collecting information related to Mole City. Similarly, as the information collection is almost the same, I am more and more sure about one thing." "What's up? You are innocent." The visitor said such words in an extremely serious tone. Gosuke Shigure didn't have any joy. He was calmer than he imagined, and he was more concerned about how long he would have to stay here than hearing the words about his innocence from the passers-by. "Since I'm innocent, why haven't I been released, and why am I still being held here?" The leader of the Beijing band? The person who came was none other than Kairaka Shunsui, captain of the 8th Squad, and one of the oldest existing captains of the Soul Society. Kairaka Shunsui looked more serious. "Gosuke, you also know that Central 46 has a sequence for judging prisoners. Recently, with the surrender of Mole City Kenpachi, his relevant criminal evidence is almost collected. Attention of Central 46, I put all my energy on judging matching, so naturally I don't have the heart to pay attention to you. But don't worry, I will go to Central 46 to ask about you later, and you probably won't be able to stay here for a few days. I came here today to hope that you will not be disappointed with Siriidii and Godii 13 because of what happened to you recently, let alone resent Central 46. They're just following the rules." There was a sneer on the corner of Gosuke Shigure's mouth. "It's a good one to follow the rules." Kairaka Shunsui heard dissatisfaction from Gosuke Shigure's words, raised his brows, hesitated to speak, but finally did not speak. After all, it is Gosuke Shigure who is in prison here. Central 46 charged Gosuke Shigure with a big crime before the matter was thoroughly investigated. Although according to the current evidence, Gosuke Shigure has been proven innocent, but it is obviously impossible for Central 46 to take the initiative to apologize to Gosuke Shigure for this incident. After all, they are nobles, they represent authority. How can they admit that they are wrong? Therefore, the wronged one can only be Gosuke Shigure. In such a situation, Kairaka Shunsui also realized how outrageous he was about Gosuke Shigure saying not to hold grudges against Central 46. Just when Kairaka Shunsui thought that Gosuke Shigure would confide in resentment towards Central 46, he suddenly heard Gosuke Shigure say, "Tell me about the Mole City Kenpachi." Kairaka Shunsui nodded, and then said, "Earlier, there was an incident of soul disappearance in Rukongai, and now it is confirmed that Maching did it. Originally, I thought what he did was just killing Rukongai at random. Soul. Now, with his surrender and his confession of crimes, we have just realized that things are more serious than we thought. He transformed the souls of Rukongai and wanted to turn them into weapons for war. He used the power of Rukongai's souls to destroy Hueco Mundo. Those souls that disappeared were all because he could not bear the transformation during the transformation process. Lingzi crashed and died. Although this matter did not succeed, the nature of this matter is so bad that it is ultimate. This is a great crime of trying to destroy the balance between souls. After collecting evidence during this period, Maching can basically be convicted now. Because he surrendered himself, he may not be killed, but at least he must be sentenced to imprisonment." While talking, Kairaka Shunsui gave his own speculation. Maybe he will be imprisoned in the bottom floor of the large underground prison. It's really unexpected. After Kairaka Shunsui finished talking about the Mole City of Kenpachi, Gosuke Shigure also expressed his heartfelt emotion. He couldn't help but think of the moment when he opened his eyes more than a year ago. Rebirth wakes up. Coinciding with Kenpachi's death, Mole City Soya succeeded as the new Kenpachi. His name is Gosuke Shigure, and he is the vice captain of the 11th Squad. According to the original book, it is very likely to become Kenpachi in the future. Once you become a Kenpachi, you need to assume certain responsibilities. At that time, he felt that being a vice captain was pretty good, and he didn't need to go to the big tree to attract attention. He once had the idea of pulling Kenpachi, the Mole City, into the right path. However, due to the lack of information, It is not known when Kenpachi, Mole City, had the idea of treason. In the end, he still couldn't stop it from happening. However, life is not like this. It is always full of regrets. Gosuke Shigure was a little bit emotional, but he didn't feel too uncomfortable. If earlier, in the Zaraki district, when he found Kenpachi Mole City was willing to listen to his persuasion, destroy the evidence, and then turn around, it would be a good thing. It's a pity that Kenpachi in Mole City has a deep obsession and decides to go to the dark on one path. In order to complete that matter, he even did not hesitate to shoot him. Right now, the Kenpachi incident in Mole City was brought to light, and it was no wonder anyone had ended up like this. After all, it was his choice. After a meeting with Kairaku Shunsui left the Palace of Penance. In this way, a few more days passed. The matter of Kenpachi in Mole City has not yet come to an end. Now that the evidence is basically collected, Central 46 has not yet tried him and completely convicted him. However, the suspicion of Gosuke Shigure has been completely cleared. On this day, the Shinjun came to the Palace of Repentance. Released Gosuke Shigure, released many shackles on him, and returned Zampiket to him, saying that he can return to the 11th team. There's no after that. It is impossible for Central 46 to apologize to Gosuke Shigure. Chapter 20. What do you think of me being Kenpachi? In Soul Society, the security situation of Siriidai and Rukongai can be described as far apart, although there are differences in degrees among different areas in Rukongai. In each area after number 70, there are swords, lights, swords, and bloody smells every day, and residents live with death all day long. As for Siriidai, which was originally a paradise for Shinigami and nobles, although the interior is full of machinations and tricks, it rarely smells the stink of violence. However, even in such a city, there is a place like Rukongai that smells of rust caused by violent collisions of sharp metals. That is the site of the 11th team, which is composed of a group of rude, domineering, brave, and belligerent people. This place is called Bride Town. Except for the dead Shindu of the 11th team, who are a bunch of rude people, even the residents living nearby have extremely tough folk customs, and they seem out of place with the nobles living in other areas. This kind of ethos is naturally formed by the influence of the 11th team over the years. The 11th squad with the image of sawgrass as the team logo is located in the center of Bride Town. Its existence has dyed the whole Bride Town with layers of strong violence. However, when Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th team this time, but he didn't feel the slightest hint of violence. The entire 11th team was filled with a strong smell of alcohol. Many players just stayed in the team building and drank, looking depressed. Because of the habit left over from the era of Tsubaki Ashiki, there were many female members in the 11th squad. At this moment, these female members and male members were hanging shoulder to shoulder and drinking together, which seemed extremely chaotic. Someone with sharp eyes noticed Gosuke Shigure, who came here. His eyes lit up involuntarily, then dimmed again, but he still greeted Gosuke Shigure. "Vice Captain, you're back." After this sentence spread, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. They turned their heads and looked at Gosuke. Those who have a general relationship with Gosuke call him Vice Captain, while those who are familiar with him call him Gosuke. Among them, Gosuke Shigure was the first Shinigami he saw after his rebirth, and Yumi Gamasoa, the 9th seed of the 11th team, walked in front of Gosuke Shigure with a strong smell of alcohol. "Gosuke, the captain's matter." "It is true." Gosuke Shigure knew what she wanted to ask, and gave the answer directly and decisively. Hear these 3 words. The pupils of many members of the 11th team dimmed, and it was difficult for them to accept this fact. Although Mole City Kenpachi has only been a Kenpachi for more than a year, and he became a Kenpachi only after killing Takayashiki. But the members of the 11th team are not those who cannot accept the death of Tsukiyashiki. They are brave and good at fighting, and they are eager to fight, so they also take death very lightly. What they care most about is whether Machin Shuangya can bear the name of Kenpachi. And for more than a year, Kenpachi, Mole City has undoubtedly proved this point. Although he has a cold personality and a withdrawn temperament, once he needs to fight, he never hesitates, and he is victorious in every battle. On the surface, many members of the 11th team still have an unfamiliar relationship with Kenpachi of Mole City, but in their hearts, they gradually accepted the existence of Kenpachi of Mole City. As a result, reality dealt them another heavy blow. Mole City Kenpachi is not a hero, but a sinner who has committed a heinous crime. When Kenpachi surrendered himself in Mole City and Gosuke Shigure was imprisoned in the Penance Palace, many Shinigami came to the 11th team and conducted an investigation on the entire 11th team, which made many Shinigami in the 11th team also know about the crimes committed by Kenpachi in Mole City. It made them miserable. Have you been drinking here all this time? Gosuke Shigure glanced at many team members who were reeking of alcohol and then landed on Gomisawa Yumi, who was familiar with him, and asked. Gomisawa Yumi squeezed out a helpless look. What if you don't drink? The captain was imprisoned for committing a felony, and the deputy captain was also imprisoned for being suspected of contamination. The entire fan team lost 2 backbones for a while, and we can only pass the time by drinking. Gosuke Shigure fell silent. Looking at the silent Gosuke, Gomisawa Yumi suddenly laughed again. However, there is still good news, Gosuke. You are back now, you must be fine. Okay. Gosuke Shigure nodded. It's great that you're all right. After all, our 11th team really cannot accept losing the captain and vice-captain at the same time. When mentioning the loss of the captain, Gomisawa Yumi showed a touch of sadness. This sense of sadness not only appeared on her, but the rest of the team members who heard Gomisawa Yumi's words also showed similar sadness. Gosuke Shigure knew where this sadness came from. More than a year ago, when Kenpachi died, these players felt such sadness. Right now, they're mourning the loss of yet another Kenpachi. More than a year ago, the original Gosuke Shigure was in a similar situation. He was the one who suffered the most from the death of Kenpachi. But right now, Gosuke Shigure is no longer the same Gosuke Shigure after all. Although we lost another Kenpachi, as long as the 11th team is still there, a new Kenpachi will eventually be born, and the person who bears the name of Kenpachi will eventually be born, and the name of Kenpachi will be passed on forever. Gosuke Shigure looked at the sad crowd and said in a deep voice. At the end, he said another sentence in front of everyone. What do you think of me becoming Kenpachi? When these words came out, everyone was stunned. After a while, there was a sudden burst of laughter. Someone laughed and said, Gosuke, don't be kidding. You are not bad as a vice-captain, and you are still far away if you want to be Kenpachi. They knew all too well what happened to the vice-captain, Gosuke. It was they who didn't like to deal with team affairs and forcibly left it to Gosuke. Admittedly, Gosuke's strength is not bad, but Gosuke is still far from being Kenpachi. Not only Gosuke, but in the 11th team, I don't know how many people want to be Kenpachi. After all, the name of Kenpachi is an honor, but they all have self-knowledge and know that they don't have enough strength to bear this name. As a result, I didn't expect to hear such arrogant words from Gosuke's mouth. For a moment, because of Gosuke Shigure's words, the sadness of the entire 11th team was swept away, and the air was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Chapter 21 Captain's Replacement after Gosuke Shigure returned to the 11th squad. Although it is a fact that Kenpachi committed a felony in Mole City, the entire 11th team is saddened to lose another Kenpachi. But after the vice-captain came back, the entire team returned to normal operation. After all, Gosuke Shigure handled many team affairs when Kenpachi was there. Under the leadership of Gosuke Shigure, the entire 11th team was back on track. Many members put away their sorrows and devoted all their attention to the mission of Godiai 13 and to the virtual world that appeared in Soul Society from time to time. In battle, during this period, Gosuke Shigure also did not hesitate to shoot. After all, this time is different. In the past, with Kenpachi of Mole City, the vice-captain could stay behind the scenes with peace of mind, and he could leave the matter of fighting the powerful Minos Grande to Kenpachi of Mole City. But now the Mole City Kenpachi is gone. If he, the vice-captain, doesn't work hard, it's really unjustifiable. During the fight against Minos Grande, Gosuke Shigure's strength naturally shocked many officers of the 11th team. In the past, Gosuke Shigure shot together with Kenpachi Mole City, and there was no one else beside him. Now Mole City Kenpachi is gone. Gosuke Shigure personally rushed to the rescue of the team members who encountered a strong enemy. Facing Minos Grande, like Jillian, he only needed to kill them with one knife. Although it is only the lowest level of Minos Grande, it also shows the strength of Gosuke Shigure. Ordinary officers, if they don't pay attention, they may be injured and die in the face of Jillian. Many senior officers of the 11th team realized just now that Gosuke had grown to this point before he knew it. However, that's it. I'm still a long way from becoming Kenpachi. After sighing, they thought again. Although Gosuke has improved, this is only the lowest Minos Grande Jillian after all. You must know that their previous captain, Toriyashiki, was able to kill the existence of the highest level Minos Grande Vasto Lord. And this kind of Jillian even killed him casually. Having said that, because of Gosuke Shigure's move against Minos Grande, after all, it still inspired the morale of the 11th team members. The entire 11th team gradually came out of the sadness of losing another Kenpachi. In recent years, Soul Society has not been peaceful. Hueco Mundo frequently attacked the Soul Society. Vasto Lord-level Minos Grande attacked the Soul Society more than once or twice. And Ordinary Sue and Jillian attacked the Soul Society more often. In this case, the tasks of the 11th team fighting surged. Even Gosuke Shigure threw himself into the fight. But he is only one person after all. It still cannot be changed, the fact that some team members were injured and died in the battle. Fortunately, the 11th team has experienced similar things many times. After joining the 11th team, all the team members were ready to die in battle, and it was a great honor for them to die vigorously in battle. After the team funeral and seeing off the dead members, the 11th team rejoined the battle. In the blink of an eye, several months passed, just when the entire 11th team gradually adapted to the days without a captain. At Central 46, the trial of the Mole City Kenpachi was finally completed. I have to say that this efficiency is slow enough, but it's not surprising either. After all, the organization of Central 46 is too bloated. The 46 people are all representatives of the nobles. Although they represent the interests of the nobles themselves are not monolithic. Otherwise, things like the Kenpachi family in Mole City would not have happened. Regarding the trial of Kenpachi, the Mole City, everyone in Central 46 has their own ideas, and everyone wants to show their own sense of existence, which led to how to judge the Mole City of Kenpachi. They discussed for a long time, but they never came up give a result. In comparison, after they confirmed Gosuke Shigure's innocence, they released Gosuke Shigure from the Confession Palace, which is already extremely efficient. But it's a bit slower. But the result came out after all. As expected by Kayaraka Shunsui, Kenpachi Malajo was sentenced to be imprisoned in the lowest level of the underground prison, Wujian. Since the establishment of Siriidii, in the long years, only a few people have been imprisoned in infernal affairs. And these people, without exception, are all criminals. Mole City Kenpachi was imprisoned in it, which is enough to show that the nature of what he did is so bad that it is ultimate. Even if it has not succeeded, but in the view of Central 46, it has reached an intolerable level. It was also in Mole City that Kenpachi was sentenced and imprisoned in Wujian. Among Godii 13, a captain's meeting is also being quietly held. A team, the first room of the team. This is a large conference room specially prepared by the first team for the captain's meeting. All important decisions about Godii 13 in the past were also discussed here. Captain Yamamoto Jinrasai looked at the many captains who came before him and first read out the verdict on Kenpachi, the Mole City. Everyone knows about this, and it's not a secret. After all, it took so long to judge the Mole City Kenpachi. After talking about this, Captain Yamamoto said another thing. The captain of the 5th Division had submitted an application for resignation earlier due to old injuries. After the ruling of Central 46, he was approved to step down. A few days ago, the old man and the other captains confronted the vice captain Hirako Shinji, conducted an assessment, and the assessment determined that Hirako Shinji has the strength to be the captain of the 5th team. Appointed by Central 46, Hirako Shinji officially assumes the role of captain today. Captain Yamamoto told about a change of captain. After saying this, a man with long yellow hair and weird bangs walked into the headroom of the team and greeted the team captains. When he grinned, his mouth a big white fong is extremely eye-catching. The captains also greeted Hirako Shinji successively. They are no strangers to Hirako Shinji. They have served as the vice captain of the 5th team for many years, and they have already possessed the strength of the captain level. This time they officially became the captain, but it is just a change of positions within the 5th team. After talking about the change of captains, Captain Yamamoto said again, "The change of captains of the 5th team has been completed, and now it's time to talk about the things of the 11th team." The captain of the 11th team, Machin Kenpachi, was imprisoned in the Inseparable for committing a felony for treason. Now, the position of captain is also vacant. Chapter 22, The New Kenpachi Candidate. Kenpachi is the title given to the strongest Shinigami. The same as the captain, there is no doubt that the captain of the 11th team is a bit special. This particularity can be seen from the succession rules of successive captains. Ordinary captain succession. You only need to pass the assessment of a few captains headed by the general captain, or get the approval of most captains, and the rest of the captains have no objection. You can succeed as the captain of Godai 13. But Kenpachi's name is different. Only those who defeat and kill the previous Kenpachi can become the new Kenpachi. This is the only exception to the Soul Society's strict prohibition against killing fellow Shinigami. The reason for making such a rule. The reason is that each new generation of Kenpachi is stronger than the previous generation. Killed the previous generation of Kenpachi and became the 7th generation Kenpachi, and the moles and pairs also killed and became the 8th generation Kenpachi. Now Mole Qingshuang is also imprisoned in Wujian for committing a felony. So where does the 9th generation of Kenpachi come from? You know, moles and pairs are not dead. After the captain mentioned the matter of the 11th squad, all the captains also realized the problem. Hirako Shinji, the captain of the 5th division who had just succeeded, directly assumed the role of captain and participated in the discussion. I also know a little bit about the succession rules for the captain of the 11th team. Now the Kenpachi in Mole City is not dead, but is being imprisoned in the Inferno. It is difficult for new Kenpachi to be produced according to the old rules. This position is unusual and must be held by a truly strong person. How do we choose a new Kenpachi? After hearing this, the veteran captains such as Hikifune Kiryu, Kaiaraka Shunsui, and Shuri Yukite cast a glance at Unohana Retsu involuntarily. Unohana Retsu felt the eyes of the 3 people. Her expression didn't change in any way. She opened and closed her slightly squinted eyes. She said in a deep voice, "It's an old rule, but not all Kenpachi are relying on this rule was born." Oh! Hirako Shinji was a little surprised. He was very smart and quickly thought of something. Yes, before the 1st generation Kenpachi, there was no title of Kenpachi. In other words, the Kenpachi of all generations was created by defeating the previous Kenpachi is not accurate. Hearing the title 1st generation Kenpachi, Unohana Retsu's eyes flashed a bit of strangeness. But she quickly restrained herself and she continued, "Compared to the fact that Kenpachi in Mole City is not dead. The more important thing now is do we have Shinigami strong enough to carry the name of Kenpachi? Mole City Kenpachi is imprisoned. Obviously, he is no longer suitable to serve as the captain of the 11th team. They have to choose a new candidate to be the captain and become the new Kenpachi." Captain Onokana is right. This is the real problem. Shuri Yukite spoke. Immediately, everyone became thoughtful. Among Godai 13, there are many masters, including Shinigami at the captain level. For example, the captain of the 5th team retired, and Hirako Shinji, the vice-captain, replaced it immediately. Among Godai 13, many vice-captains actually have the strength of the captain. I won't mention anything else, just talk about Shur Sasakibe, the deputy captain of the 1st team. As the vice-captain who has existed since the beginning of Godai 13's establishment, his seniority is older than many captains. Definitely has the strength of the captain level. But having said that, whether he is suitable to be the captain of the 11th team is another question. I do have a choice. At this moment, Kaiaraka Shunsui spoke suddenly. "Oh, who is the leader of the Beijing band?" Hearing this, many captains all looked at Kaiaraka Shunsui in surprise. Although he is usually out of tune, everyone knows that Kaiaraka Shunsui's out of tune is just an appearance. At critical moments, Kaiaraka Shunsui is definitely a reliable person. He said that there is a candidate, so there must be an extremely suitable candidate. Jingle, don't be so secretive. Just speak directly. Captain Yamamoto also said to Kaiaraka Shunsui. Kaiaraka Shunsui didn't hide anymore and revealed a candidate. Vice-captain of the 11th team, Gosuke Shigure. Gosuke Shigure? When the name came out, many captains showed a strange look on their faces. They are no strangers to Gosuke Shigure. This is actually a veteran vice captain. Although he has not been a vice captain for too long, he can't stand his seniority. During Kenpachi's era, he was the vice captain. After Kenpachi's death, he was still the vice captain in the era of Kenpachi in Mole City. If I remember correctly, before Kenpachi surrendered himself, the last person who came into contact with him was Gosuke Shigure. The captain of the 2nd Division, Shihun Kongshan, he is a burly old man. After hearing this name, said in a deep voice, "Yes." Kayaraka Shunsui nodded. Because of the incident in Kenpachi, he was once regarded as a suspect and detained in the Palace of Repentance. In the end, with the collection of criminal evidence in Kenpachi, it was confirmed that he was innocent. What ability does he have to serve as the captain of the 11th team and bear the name of Kenpachi? Another captain asked. With him, he defeated Kenpachi. Kayaraka Shunsui gave the answer. Shocked. Many captains were shocked when they heard this answer. Are you kidding? Someone thought Kayaraka Shunsui was joking. But if he observed carefully, he would find that after Kayaraka Shunsui named the specific candidate, Captain Yamamoto and Unohana Retsu all showed contemplative expressions on their faces, and they did not seem to refute the candidate proposed by Kayaraka Shunsui. It's not a joke, Kayaraka Shunsui said. Captain Shun said earlier that before Kenpachi surrendered himself, the last person to contact him was Gosuke Shigure. This statement is true, but not entirely true. In fact, it was me and Gosuke Shigure who brought Kenpachi back to Siri. And before Kenpachi in Mole City turned himself in, we went to the 4th team. Obviously, many people don't know about this matter, and the captains all looked at Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th Division, to confirm the authenticity of this matter. Unohana Retsu didn't hide it either, nodded and said, yes, Kenpachi of Mole City did come to the 4th team. He was seriously injured at that time because he hadn't surrendered himself at that time, and I didn't know the crime he committed. So we dealt with his injuries. This news is undoubtedly shocking. Mole City Kenpachi as a strong man bearing the name of Kenpachi. How did you get hurt? And according to what Unohana Retsu said, Kenpachi's injury in Mole City was not light, even extremely serious. Chapter 23 Captain Assessment. Kenpachi's injury was caused by Gosuke Shigure. Kayaraka Shunsui has the answer. Before Kenpachi in Mole City surrendered himself, there was an incident of Rukongai's soul disappearing. As an intelligence team, my A team was responsible for investigating this matter and collecting information about it. When I found out that Kenpachi in Mole City was extremely suspicious, I came to the 1st team to report this matter to the general captain and then learned from the general captain that before I came to the 1st team, there was a huge spiritual fluctuation in the Zaraki area of northern Rukongai 80 district. Fight there. One of them is Kenpachi Mole City. Kayaraka Shunsui told the whole story in an orderly manner, although jumped directly to the earliest point in time. But Captain Ing listened with gusto. It's really because Kayaraka Shunsei's words are too explosive. Gosuke Shigure, the vice captain of the 11th squad, actually defeated the Captain Kenpachi. And it's not a joke, it's a fact. As if to confirm this matter, after Kayaraka Shunsui finished speaking, the captain of the 12th Division Kiryu also gave a reply. According to the Siri Research Institute, under my 12th Division is monitoring the Lingbo of the entire Soul Society. On that day, there was indeed a captain-level Ryatsu fluctuation, as Kayaraka said, in the Zaraki district. As soon as this matter happened, the Siri Research Institute reported the matter to a team. These words can be regarded as confirming that what Kayaraka Shunsui said is true. The captain did not refute the words of Kayaraka Shunsui and Hikafian Kiryu, which is undoubtedly another level of evidence for this matter. Kayaraka Shunsui said again, when I got the order from the captain and rushed to the Zaraki area for the first time, the first thing I saw was Kenpachi lying on the wasteland and seriously injured, and standing beside him, Gosuke Shigure. From all kinds of evidence, as well as the collection and comparison of Gosuke Shigure's Ryatsu at the time, there is no doubt that the person who was fighting Kenpachi in Mole City at that time was Gosuke Shigure. The reason Kenpachi decided to turn himself in is also because he was defeated by Gosuke Shigure. Kayaraka Shunsui explained the cause of the matter. Many people are still in shock, but they are gradually realizing the rebellion of Kenpachi in Mole City was well planned. Although Kayaraka Shunsui found some clues, it was just speculation after all. As a result, Kenpachi and Mole City surrendered before that. Many people are still wondering why. Now there are some answers. It turned out to be before that, losing to Gosuke Shigure. I'm afraid there are still some stories about Kenpachi and Gosuke Shigure in Mole City. After Uno Hanaretsu heard Kaira Shunsui's words, he also thought of the young man who came to the fourth team with Kayaraka Shunsui and Mole City Kenpachi. It turned out to be him. She once asked Kayaraka Shunsui, who seriously injured Kenpachi Mole, but got no answer. Now I know. It is true that Gosuke Shigure, as the vice-captain, defeated Kenpachi, the captain, is an incredible thing. But everyone in the arena is Shinigami after all. Shinigami's strength does not increase slowly through practice alone. There are many ways to make Shinigami's strength improve by leaps and bounds. One of the easiest ways is to learn Bankai. If Gosuke Shigure has learned Bankai, it is not so unacceptable to use the power of Bankai to defeat the mole who is Kenpachi. After digesting the shocking news, Shihoin Kanchan, captain of the second team, said, "If Gosuke Shigure really defeated Kenpachi, Mole City, then there seems to be no problem with him being the new Kenpachi. After all, according to the succession rules of Kenpachi, one only needs to defeat the previous Kenpachi to become the new Kenpachi. He's done it. In addition, as the vice-captain of the 11th team, he is very familiar with the situation of the 11th team. It can be said that there is no more suitable candidate for the current Godai 13 than him." As soon as this remark came out, the rest of the captains nodded. Of course, it is not up to the captains to decide whether to let Gosuke Shigure serve as the new Kenpachi and become the captain of the 11th team. They also just proposed a candidate. Originally entangled with this problem, Kayaraka Shunsui gave a suitable person. And of course, they don't mind pushing the boat along. In the final analysis, this is a matter belonging to the 11th squad and has nothing to do with their respective squads. And the people who can really decide the appointment of the captain are Yamamoto Jinrosai, the captain of Godai 13, and the highest judiciary of the Soul Society, Central 46. Here, it is not Central 46, but the headroom of the first team, so all the captain's eyes fell on the captain of Yamamoto. This old man who built Godai 13 with one hand and has experienced many battles is the one who can really decide everything. Captain Yamamoto has been quietly listening to the exchange of the captains until now. He said, "If what Kayaraka Shunsui said is true, Gosuke Shigure defeated Kenpachi Mole City. He is indeed qualified to be the new Kenpachi. But there's one more problem." Captain Yamamoto explained the captain succession rules of the 11th squad. Although Kenpachi's succession ceremony is to defeat the previous Kenpachi, this decisive battle must be witnessed by 200 members of the 11th squad. In addition, the rest of the captain-level Shinigami are needed as witnesses. When Kenpachi of Mole Castle challenged Kenpachi of Takeshiki, there were many members of the 4th and 11th teams as witnesses, and the witness at the captain level was the leader of the Beijing band. And right now, when Gosuke Shigure defeated the Mole City Kenpachi, there were no witnesses. Although Kayaraka Shunsui said that Gosuke Shigure defeated Kenpachi, he also said that when he arrived, Kenpachi had already lost. Therefore, no one knows the real situation of that battle. After the captains heard what the captains said, they also realized the crux of the problem. The reason why Kenpachi's succession ceremony needs witnesses is to more clearly determine the strength of the challenger and confirm that he really has power beyond Kenpachi. If there were no witnesses, no one would know whether the other party had set a trap in advance and used disgraceful means to plot against Kenpachi in that battle. Such a thing is obviously unacceptable. Because if it happened, if one cunning villain becomes the captain of Godai 13, it will bring shame to the whole Godai 13. Fortunately, Captain Yamamoto proposed a solution after explaining the crux of the problem. Therefore, I decided to conduct a captain assessment on Gosuke Shigure to determine whether he has the strength to become a captain. Chapter 24 Cut Minos Grande. Historically, there have been 3 ways to appoint captains. One is to pass the captain's exam under the witness of 3 captains, including the general captain. The other is to be recommended by 6 captains, and then get the approval of 3 of the remaining 6 captains, witnessed by the captain of the fan team and the 200 members of his own team. He can only succeed as the captain if he wins the duel with the then captain. Although the final result requires the consent and appointment of Central 46, the appointment of Central 46 is just a formality. After all, they're not professional, and they don't know whether this person has the strength of the captain level. As long as the person passes one of these 3 exams, and Team Ichiba submits a letter of appointment as captain, Central 46 will basically agree. Only the captain of a team is actually appointed by Central 46. That is, the captain of the first team. That is, the post of the general captain. The appointment of the captain is not any one of the above 3 methods, but is directly appointed by Central 46. Therefore, there are 3 ways to appoint the captain, but the first team should actually be excluded. This time, Captain Yamamoto brought up the captain assessment. The third type, the challenge ceremony under the witness of the other team captains and 200 team members, is itself a unique inheritance method for the 11th team Kenpachi, because Kenpachi of Mole City has been imprisoned, and this method is obviously no longer available. Even if Kairoka Shunsui said that Gosuke Shigure had defeated the Mole City Kenpachi because there were no witnesses, even if it was true, Gosuke Shigure could not complete the challenge ceremony and directly appoint him as Kenpachi. Of course, Gosuke Shigure is indeed the most suitable candidate at the moment. The position of Kenpachi and the position of captain of the 11th team cannot be vacant. This is a fighting team among the Godai 13 with great responsibilities. It doesn't matter if the position of captain of the other teams is left vacant for a few years, except for the 11th team. Once the position of captain is vacant, it will directly affect the fighting spirit of all team members, which is unacceptable. Therefore, it is necessary to select a new captain as soon as possible. The third method was directly rejected, and the second method requires the recommendation of 6 captains and the approval of half of the remaining 6 captains, which is also impossible. In the past, there were not such Shinigami who directly served as the captain through recommendation. But such a person, before becoming the captain, was a famous and powerful Shinigami himself. If Chur Sasakibe, the vice-captain of the first team, is the captain this time, there is no doubt that all the captains on the field will agree with him as the new captain. Because Chur Sasakibe is old enough. His ability is also extremely powerful. From the beginning of Godai 13's establishment, he has followed the captain's side, serving as the captain's adjutant and assistant. It can be said that he is older than many captains. Such a person has long been qualified to lead a team alone and serve as the captain. But Gosuke Shigure is different. Although he is the vice-captain of the 11th team, everyone has some understanding of him, but the understanding is not deep enough. One is that it is not clear about Gosuke Shigure's ability, and the other is that it is not clear about his true strength. In such a case, it is naturally impossible to recommend it. Therefore, there is only one way to conduct the captain's assessment of Gosuke Shigure. That is the first type, under the witness of the 3 captains, including the chief captain. A captain assessment was conducted on him, and the candidates for the assessment. After the captain said these words, he had already made a decision. In the wilderness, Gosuke Shigure led the 11th team and repelled the attack of Hueco Mundo again. Leading the charge this time is an intermediate Minos Grande, also known as a Juches. In the cognition of most Shinigami, the middle-level Minos Grande already has a powerful force comparable to the captain level. It's even written in the textbooks of Spiritual Arts Academy. This time, a mid-level Minos Grande and multiple low-level Minos Grande invaded. Many officers of the 11th squad were even ready to die in battle. If the captain was there in the past, of course they would not have such an idea, because no matter how strong Minos Grande is, even the most advanced Minos Grande is not the captain's opponent, but now it is different. They have already lost their 2 captains, and now no one is protecting them from the wind and rain. To deal with Minos Grande, they can only rely on themselves. In any case, they have to support until the reinforcements from the rest of the squad arrive. At first they thought so. However, just as many chief executives remained pessimistic, Gosuke's strength exceeded their expectations. Killing a lot like chopping melons and vegetables, Jillian didn't say anything. Facing mid-level Minos Grande Ajuches who can be compared to the captain, Gosuke held Zampicut, leaped out in the air, and slashed out with a single blow. The powerful sword pierced the air and flew out. Ajuches, who was much smaller than Jillian, had just arrived at the Soul Society and had not had time to find the place where the soul lived and devoured it all. And directly suffered this powerful knife. His body was split open and he was severely injured. Minos Grande all possess an ability called high-speed regeneration. Ajuches was furious. Under the ability of high-speed regeneration, his injuries recovered quickly, and he was preparing to continue to settle accounts with these Shinigami after recovering from his injuries. Immediately afterwards, another Zampakit stab was found, which happened to stab at his empty hole. Su hole is Su's iconic symbol, and it is also Su's weakness. Ajucha's void hole was pierced by Gosuke Shigure's Zampakit, and with a force, his body was cut open from the void hole. This time, his injury could no longer recover, and he died on the spot. Ajucha's body fell to the ground with a dull sound. Compared with Jillian around him, his body is much smaller and less shocking. But this is Ajucha's. The Ryatsu that emanated from him earlier was much stronger than Jillian. As a result, he was still so easily beheaded by Gosuke Shigure. Seeing this scene, many members of the 11th team were all stunned and immediately cheered. Gosuke Shigure's strength deeply inspired them and brought them great morale. Kill! The members of the 11th team raised their Zampakit and then killed some of the remaining miscellaneous hairs, preparing to completely end this Hueco Mundo invasion. When Kayaraka Shunsui arrived here with some Shinigami from the 8th Division and the 4th Division, he saw such a scene, he couldn't help touching his nose and said with a smile, "It seems that I am late." However, such a result does not seem to be surprising. Chapter 25. The reception after the war after the captain's meeting. Kayaraka Shunsui is going to go to Gosuke Shigure and inform him about the captain's assessment in advance. As a result, he has not waited until he went to the 11th team. Then I learned that Team 11 went out to fight Hueco Mundo's invasion of Soul Society's Minos Grande. Not long after, another request for help from the 11th team was received, and Minos Grande of the Ajucha's level came across the border. In the past, the captain of the 11th team was still there, as long as it was not the highest level Minos Grande Vasto Lord. Ajuchas and Kenpachi of all generations could easily deal with it. But it's different now. The 11th team has no captain. So this is unusual, because they were worried that the members of the 11th team would suffer heavy casualties in front of Ajuchas. Godei 13 rushed to help the 11th team immediately. Originally, the 5th team, the rescue team, should have come to help in this matter. But because Hirako Shinji, the captain of the 5th team, has just taken office and is not yet fully familiar with the team affairs, and Kayaraka Shunsui has his own ideas, so this matter was taken over by him. He took his members of the 8th Division and some female medical Shinigami of the 4th Division and quickly moved towards the location of the 11th Division. Although in the bottom of his heart, he doesn't think an Ajuchas can do anything to the 11th team. After all, it is the fighting team of Godei 13, and the strength of the members of the 11th team is among the best in the entire Godei 13. Not to mention, there is also the captain-level Shinigami of Gosuke Shigure. But just in case a rescue is needed, like the Hueco Mundo attack that Hiroyoshiki encountered before being challenged by the Mole City Kenpachi, although Hiroyoshiki defeated the invading Minos Grande. But according to his speculation, behind the invading Minos Grande, there is a more powerful virtual existence. Ajuchas invaded this time, but no one can tell whether Ajucha's invasion was carried out under the control of a higher-level Minos Grande. Maybe. However, looking at the current results, the accident obviously did not happen. Although Jillian and Ajuchas were all beheaded by Gosuke Shigure, but there are still many miscellaneous hairs that have not been eradicated. Kayaraka Shunsui immediately issued an order. The members of the 8th Division all go to the 11th Division, and the 4th Division members go to heal the wounded. The Shinigami who came here with Kayaraka Shunsui got the task and went to help one.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.